morning.
Oh, no, that's okay. I was just calling to confirm our appointment for this afternoon. Awesome. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Absolutely. It's 16101 108th Avenue. Yes, in Orland, yes. And I do have a loan officer meeting us as well. So, yes. Oh, you're very welcome. Absolutely. Yeah, so if you guys are finding the office, just let me know, okay? You do the same. One more thing, Samantha. When you come into the office, when you walk into the building, you're gonna come up to the second floor. There's an elevator, so you're gonna come up to the second floor, okay? Okay, you're welcome. Bye.
What's that? Doors open at 9. Yeah, the doors open at 9 security wise, and then they close at like right at 6 or 6:30. Security. So we know if someone's coming up, we'll run down or they call us. But it's for security. It helps, right?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Alrighty, so we're gonna get ready to start. So everyone sign in, and then we do our daily chemical alert. You mark it? Yep. It's all online now too, correct?
Yeah.
You do it all?
Yeah.
All right. I know, she said everyone's on top of it. Yeah. There's really no verification there. I mean, everyone's got it.
And Val pulls it out.
There. Will she pull it out?
Yeah, she does. She pulls it out.
See, if she was here, she would have pulled it out. But she knows you guys. She believes it.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much all of us don't know.
I love it. Yeah, it's too bad. She's like, always, don't worry about all the tech. I'll be there. And, she is going to come in a little bit later. I'll wait for that. So she can verify that and we can get rolling. So what about calls? Want to start out with the calls and do our thing? All right. Interested, verify 10 contacts. I know what the time for. Let's keep it in the culture of it and do the calls.
Okay, very good.
What kind of scripts are you going to use? The regular ones that you've been using continually? Or
Sure.
No, really. What kind of scripts have you been using? Because I don't use a script. Have your own little thing going?
I kind of do the same. Like we did a Healthy Living Expo, Harry and our team.
Yes.
We did the Healthy Living Expo 2 weeks ago. So I have leads that, I'm just calling, hi, thank you for coming, thank you for, storming the weather, is there anything I can help you with, any real estate needs?
Right.
Do you know of anybody? Think about that. Do you know of anybody? And I kind of follow that,
That's always
but
good
not an
to
actual script.
use an event. To use something like that. And a lot of times, in the fall for like coat drive, people were doing that. Just any type of, excuse or reason to have those calls. Like if you call two agents to come in for events, and you could utilize that too. Like, hey, there's a great event coming on, or Colleen's teaching the class, come on in. So it helps with your the profit share, your growth too.
Sure.
So that's always good calls to throw in there too.
Sure.
Great idea. You look like. What calls have you been using, or what scripts?
Some of my spirit with the young people.
Yes. We'll just go ahead and the database, because that's key. And I know Val, Val's really good with the database. You've already been diving into that one too, so that's good. All right. So you want to just rock and roll, and then we'll just do that for a little bit.
So I just want to share with this small group here that we have here. When Harry and Jackie and I did this event, we just did a little raffle. So it was the Healthy Living Expo in Tinley Park. We had a like a yoga basket.
Yeah.
So it was a yoga mat. It was a couple of hand weights, a water bottle, a waist trimmer, a jump rope.
Nice.
Put it in a cute little basket. Said, hey, would you like to enter into our free raffle? You guys, we got 80 potential leads.
Nice.
So between Jackie and I, that is just people who signed up. I, being the buyer's agent, I got either 6 or 7 actual people that came to me and said, oh yeah, I'm gonna be buying things.
Right.
Jackie being more of the listing agent, she got, gosh, probably a dozen people,
Really?
easily,
Wow.
a dozen people that said, yeah, I'd like to see a mate sent to me. So if you guys can do these events, like, this is huge to me. I have 40 people I get to call just to, out of,
Right.
you know,
Warmer leads.
right. Hi, how are
Right.
you?
Good.
Hi.
Yeah, so we know, obviously with the weather, we're gonna have, we welcome any stragglers that are coming in, and we'll get there. So thank you for coming.
So yeah, I just want to share that with you guys.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's one of the advantages for having that team too, so that's pretty cool about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else before we? That's kind of quiet. Not used to all quiet.
Good morning, Conrad. This is Roberta with Keller Williams. How are you? This is Roberta with Keller Williams. We had met at the Healthy Living Expo, and we had spoken last week. You asked me to give you a call back? Oh, sure. No, understood. What time would be a good time for me to call you? That's cool. She just hung up on me.
Closer to your next one.
Exactly.
That's always good, right?
Well, she said she was driving in the snow, so.
Oh, yeah. So definitely.
Yeah.
It's Lydia, Laura's sister.
Good.
Are you driving right now? Okay, then let me, I just wanted to let you know I set you up so that you can start receiving properties. Okay, and I also talked to my mother today, he's gonna be reaching out to you, okay? He's gonna want to have a sit down with you. He's in my phone. He's on my phone. Yeah. So his name is Liz, who's gonna be reaching out to you so that you can get yours with buyer. Okay.
This is Valerie to call
So
too.
this is my number, you have it, you should have received an email already. This one, it's at the end, check it out, tell me what you think. Look at my books, some of them say, and some of them say, okay, and some don't. Most of them say dogs, okay, one of them I did notice it said cats. Alright, so the neighbors you wanted, and I added a couple more, so that you can, you see, it's really only like 30. When I asked you if you have any questions, let me know, I'm going to broaden your search. And I'll follow up with you, I told you to see me and everything, that you do. So I'll know exactly what's going on from there. But then I'm going to talk to you about the guidelines and stuff. And, any questions you have, you just call me, okay? And I'll follow up with you. Okay? All right, Brenda. Be careful out there, okay?
Good morning, Judy Sandra.
Yeah, so I went, my sister had, this jewelry thing, I was dreading on going to, it was Friday night, and it was snowing out, it was up on, I don't know, I'll go, you know, I gotta go, I'm like, everything. And I'm 3 miles of but I was
I don't know that, okay?
Yeah, I do.
Nice.
Just following up with you again.
So I was going to start this period.
Please let me know.
Calls are okay. So that she's like,
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome. So a lot of people don't know, so they just need to be educated.
so she said she should talk to the police station and so on. So,
That's exciting to see. And those are the types of clients that are like yours for life.
yeah, right?
Because you're making a huge change in your life. Because a lot of people won't take the time.
So, I.
Right, well, because it's not a huge sale.
Yeah.
And sometimes those play out well because it turns into multiple.
Exactly.
And it's awesome for your database.
Great.
Yep, that's totally right. So, I mean, I know we're taking that with you too. Just 2 more calls, right? What do you got going on? Oh, you got killing roller. Oh. Yes. Right. You'll get there. You'll get there. You will, really fast. And then just hopefully you won't even need to go. So if you work your database too, you could be like, oh, she's just so busy with that one portion. It's just good not to be scared of it. Yeah, so you just hold it. Right? A lot of people won't always think about that. Because they're not getting much return on their money, right? In the bank.
So now I'm gonna do like all of them.
See?
All these things that like might be.
You never know. Right, talk it up. Always have, always. Hello. We're just dialing right now, so we're making calls. Because I switched over to this because I hear rid of these people. So we do calls a lot.
And I'm with Keller Realty. And you and I met at the Healthy Living Expo a couple weeks ago. And I just wanted to call to say thank you for coming and signing our booth and bringing that winter wonderland that we have. It looks like we're at it again with this snow. Anyway, I was just calling to see if there was anything that I could help you with any real estate needs. And if not, maybe you might know someone who could save you
I'm just making some calls right now.
Please do give me a call.
And it's straight.
Or everyone finds it. You can reach me at 708-674-8110.
And it's natural, Terry. Very natural, right? Just unnatural. That's why a lot of people feel good when they wear a jacket. And you know, a name tag because, yeah, like the jackets. We're still making a couple of calls. Yeah, so just a couple more. Yeah, just a couple more. I switched a little bit. Really, we're supposed to go through Michelle and everything. However, I think we did some calls and then we have some stragglers in it. So we gotta get some energy. Right? Yeah. What do you think about Mama? Yes, she's a wall. Oh, yeah.
So
Yep. And you just make it natural. because it's just a part of you, you're just excited about it.
Exactly.
And that's the difference. I think.
You know?
Alright.
So like, you use that.
Of course.
Hello, this is just for Teresa. Teresa, my name is Roberta. I am with Keller Preferred Realty, and you and I met at the Healthy Living Expo in Tinley Park a couple weeks ago. I was just calling to tell you thank you for stopping by our booth and bringing the winter storm. I'm sure we got another one here today. And I just wanted to call to ask you if there was anything I could help you with any real estate needs for you and your family, or maybe you might know someone who might be looking to sell their current home or purchase a new one. If that would be the case, please give me a call. I would love to be of any assistance to you and your family or so you can reach me at 708-674-1104. Have a wonderful day.
We didn't really get into the details of the scene. So that was basically it. The next week. It's pretty normal.
She said it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we can make this week, but she said.
Yeah, she's gonna have this like little house, so like.
Yep.
Yeah, one around piece.
That's a good suggestion too, if you think that's good, we'll come down. Do that too. Right, you can get together and do that. A lot of people do it on their own, but that might be really nice
Yeah, it's not that.
to do it together and see what you all think. I love that.
Oh,
Very cool. We gotta get some energy going on. Nobody have their coffee? There you go. Of course you try to match your coffee cup to your scarf, Cindy.
Good morning, this is Angie. This is Roberta from Keller Williams Preferred Realty. You and I met at the Healthy Living Expo a couple of weekends ago, and I was just calling to tell you thank you for stopping by and bringing the winter storm that we have there that day. And sure as we have another one today, doesn't it? Anyway, I'm just calling to see if I could be of any assistance to you for any of your real estate needs. And if not, maybe you might know someone who might be looking to sell their current home or even buy a new one. Let them get one. If I can be of any assistance to you and your family and friends, please do give me a call. You can reach me at 708-674-8110. Thank you, Tanji. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
These are the troopers.
Mhm.
These are the troopers that made it through.
Absolutely.
Woohoo!
It's awesome. They didn't want to miss you, that's why.
That's why.
That's right.
That's why. I even had some texts yesterday. Don't want to miss you. I'm like, "Oh, it'll be recorded." Appreciate it. All right. So we're gonna get going, digging in there. I know you just got here and you're just doing the calls. Okay, he's finishing up a call. So we switched it around a little bit just to hopefully get a few more people. We did, right?
We did.
We got a couple more troopers. What's that? Sign in?
I think I forgot to sign in the last time I was here. So
That's okay. All right, Cindy Beverly. Okay, so, yeah, well, you know, so usually we go over the expectations, right, and our missions. We did the 10-4, everyone did their sign in, and you're responsible for, Val will be in here shortly to also pull that up. I'm not really sure how to pull that up to verify, however, I know everyone really does do the work. That's what I heard, that you're a great group. Okay, so today we are going over the offers, right? So making and receiving offers. So what we're gonna do today is learn how to present offers when you represent a buyer, learn how to receive offers when you represent a seller, practice some scripts around both processes, learn how to set the stage for a positive negotiation. So there's a lot of fun activities today, and I think we'll have a little extra time since we have a small group. It's always good to have your own personal experiences. And if there's any time I can interject and give any type of personal experience too, I think it'll definitely add to it. Since we all know things don't turn out, exactly how we write it, right? Like a script or whatnot. That's why we always have to be ready to add one. All right, so we did the 10-4. So first step first, so like the offer, right? Well, when you represent the buyer, so that's the point, when you represent the buyer, the offer is like the exciting time, so you finally were like a matchmaker, right? The buyer and the home is finally coming together. You represent the seller, that means like you've been doing great marketing and you're getting the offer that way, right? So the point about it, I guess I should use those. I'm not used to using these every day. Okay, we did that, there was that 4, 6. Okay, do the call list, get your head in the game. Yeah, the process of moving from a buyer or seller agreement to a sales contract. So we all know that our sales contract also has changed. We got the 7.0, and I believe most of you were able to attend the 7.0 contract with the Catris law, so that was really
That was really good.
that was good, very helpful. There are a few changes, however, there's some that are pretty substantial actually in how you're going to have a very mindful offering process. So we're gonna dig into that too, because that's the thing. You wanna be able to utilize info and use it for your advantage. Because if you're not, someone else can. So you wanna be the knowledgeable agent that totally understands contracts inside and outside. And we do have some other parts of contracts that I don't think a lot of people are utilizing. So we're gonna talk about that too. I think it's gonna be a little open. All right, the offer process, right? Buyer makes an offer, the seller responds, he has 3 ways. Counter the offer, accept the offer, reject the offer. Sounds pretty simple, right? But it's not always so simple. I personally just had an offer over the weekend, and it was a listing, and I gave it to the buyer and the buying agent, and he said, well, what's the counter? Sorry, there was no counter. What do you mean there's no counter? There's no counter. So
We're rejecting your offer.
essentially rejecting, however, a lot of times in our marketplace, do we sign that last page? I'm seeing that more and more happen though now, where that last page, it actually states, have the seller sign off, because people get a little perturbed, because I don't believe me that the seller didn't even want to counter, so it's like, it's those
Oh,
relationships
so the
between the
agents
agents
don't
too.
think that you actually presented it.
That could be.
Okay.
Right, so we'll get into that too. I really feel, well, we can talk about that even right now. So I really feel like you can utilize that. You're not trying to like make an enemy, if you will. However, in this day and age, you have to keep everyone on track. If you feel that they're, a hot home in Oak Lawn, under $200,000, and, oh, they're not gonna counter, they're not gonna do anything, oh, there was no multiple offers, and all that situation, you can request for the seller to sign off and reject it, because a lot of times your own buyer is wondering too. So that's the process. So it makes sense, all right? So if they counter the offer, we go back to negotiation, right? And it goes back and forth. And I think this is a good point. If you were here for the 7.0, if you notice that new portion in the 7.0, it actually specifies more that if you put on another offer, it is a counter offer. If you're going to sit there and negotiate and say, well, we're not gonna do this as a counter offer, so it actually states in there the difference between, we can actually walk away from that. So you always have to advise your buyer or your seller to be careful. Does that make sense? Because before that wasn't always really specified. It's very loose, and I believe they mentioned too that at the bottom of the emails, the lawyers could always say, this is not to be misconstrued as a counter offer. We have the right to take back our askings, if you will. They're not referring to as a counter offer, because they don't want you to have the option to say, we don't like that, we're gonna back out. Does that make sense?
That was part of the whole specifically, when it gets into all these stuff.
With the repair credit and everything,
Yeah,
well,
with
it could be for anything though. So if it's any kind of credit, any type of anything, it's a counter offer. So sometimes you can work that to your advantage. If you do have a few different offers and the seller is like, well, you know, we just got another offer in, but we're in this contract with this, however, they made a counter, you can sit there and reject it, they're out, and then you can't legally accept the other. So it gets really, really hairy there, so you wanna make sure. All right, accepts the offer, sounds great enough. You begin the contract to close process. So that's when you do the attorney review, you do the inspection, right? And then reject the offer, buyer agent contacts listing agent to learn more. Don't assume no means no. So that's good. It's always great to have wonderful relationships with your co-broks. I mean, I really feel like we're in this together, and that has helped me personally in transactions, because I'll sit there and say, well, you know, why didn't they? Can you, not everyone's always open, let's face it, right? Everyone has a different personality. Some people are a little more willing to give you info than others. But it doesn't hurt to ask, like, is there something that happened? Or they'll say, well, you know, the buyer really wants a conventional home versus FHA, or this or that. I mean, you'll figure it out, say, oh, well, my buyer is. So that's why it's really good to know about more of the financing. I think we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. However, does people feel comfortable with the differences of the loans with that? FHA, conventional, 203K? Do you have any questions? We need some energy, we need some affirmations, right? We didn't even do the affirmation part. Should we stand up? Should you guys stand up and do it? All right, let's stand. Come on, Brita, you can do it. It'll make you feel better. Does anyone have a special affirmation they like to use? You know, in bold, we say, I'm a great salesperson, right? Wanna do that? All right. I'm a great salesperson. I'm a great salesperson. I'm a great salesperson. Woo! You don't believe that, right?
I ran this morning for an hour. I got enough.
You got your energy? Yes. So you're a great runner and a great salesperson.
Yes,
There
I
we go.
am.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Very good. You feel a little awake now? Okay. Come on now. Come on, work with me here. I know it's a hard commute in.
Hey, you know what? We all made it, so.
We did. I really commend you for doing that. I mean, not saying the people that couldn't. I know a lot of people, the kids.
Sure.
You know, my kids, all the schools closed down and everything, so it's always difficult to make arrangements and everything like that too. All right, representing the buyer. So when we prepare to write the offer, what's the checklist? It's in your books too. What's the checklist of what you need to represent the buyer? How do you prepare it? You see it there? Page 13.
Pre-approval.
Yeah. And we find that our market, I mean, if you were the listing agent, there's no pre-approval, what would you think?
I'm not qualified.
Right, and I'll tell you, different markets, so we, even though we're licensed in all of Illinois, I did do a deal for Southern, and I was a listing agent, and I did call on an offer, and they were actually quite offended. It's so weird how the different, she says,
Really?
yeah, she's like, well, of course, I would never bring a buyer into a home that wasn't pre-approved. So it's just very different, and you know, different contracts in different areas. However, in our Chicagoland market, and you know, Northwest Indiana, as far as that, it's always, you gotta have a pre-approval. You're right. Okay.
I was working in the city,
Mhm.
and, you know, I was actually surprised there are a lot of agents that don't have one, and we're like, well, you know, you can't present an offer without it. Either
Right.
show us proof of funds,
Proof of funds.
or show us, you know.
And there's another good example, actually, when you work in the city a lot, another rule of thumb, don't always, some people get offended by this too, don't go to your buyer and say, give me your pre-approval letter, because a lot of people have cash. So always put that open, because they actually, you know, I've had that happen where people get offended that you assume that they need financing. Different cultures too.
Sure.
So you say, pre-approval letter from a lender, or if you have cash, I need proof of funds. It's always good to say both, because you never underestimate. I mean, I've had people that have $300,000 cash like nobody's business. So never underestimate that. It's always a good tip.
You put that in your listings, or with the contracts and pre-approval funds, write that as a memo.
I don't typically. Do you do that?
No.
I don't typically do that. Who? Terry does?
Yeah.
Right, some agents actually, she was saying some agents actually state in the listings, you know,
Under
our
agent
offers.
remarks.
I do,
Yeah.
I do back.
Yeah.
And then I say 6.1, now I change to
7.0,
7.0.
right,
Yeah, I actually do. now.
require the different, right, I never, even put it to that contract because I do know some markets have different contracts and I left it open. If we have to change it or the attorney requests something else, I just never want to limit a potential buyer.
Absolutely.
So I just always had that open, because I've had some weird contracts come in from
Oh, yeah,
different boards, right?
Right.
Sometimes they have different ones, and, hey,
You might also have like a brand new buyer that might be like, well, I don't know if I'm really gonna be able to give that to you right now, or do I wanna give that to you right now, or something like that, you know, or you might just sense like attitude.
sure,
So what I'll say is, you know what, I'm really sorry, but this is company policy, I cannot take you out on a showing
Mhm.
without having either a proof of, proof of funds or pre-approval.
or you can say that's your team policy,
Yeah.
that's
I
your
just say
professional,
office, but yeah.
that's your professional, because, you know, that's really important in a buyer consultation, right?
Right.
So they set up you set up the expectations, right, from the start, the standards. Probably sits team, because it really isn't
Keller Williams.
Keller Williams.
You're right. Okay,
Right.
I'll change that. Good point.
It's okay though, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, however, we always wanna come from a place that we're
Sure,
transparent and we're being, you know, as honest as
I
possible.
try to put it on them saying, you know, this is for your benefit,
Yes,
so that you know what you can afford comfortably.
Mhm.
That's the word I use, comfortably.
Absolutely.
right, and I know you do a very extensive, buyer
Consultation.
consult, if nobody knows, that Cindy does that, she does a really extensive buyer consult with her clients, and I think that
I'm eating
helps
two
out.
tonight, one at
See?
5 and one at 6 at Starbucks.
That's exciting, that's really exciting, that's a nice way.
Are you saying that it's not Keller Williams' policy to get a pre-approval?
It's technically not the policy. I wouldn't sit there and say it is their company policy, because everyone, remember, at Keller Williams, that's the one cool thing, they always say, we're glad to be in business with you. I mean, it's not legal, it's not a legal thing that we have to do for the board or for license law. Hey, come on in, we know we got stragglers.
Come join us.
And, you know, we're just saying, for that reason, it's no particular policy. And if it is a policy, someone's telling me, I don't believe it is. So, but it is a nice way to make sure you get your buyers to be serious. I mean, I understand that. Or vice versa.
You're right, the verbiage.
The verbiage,
Should be.
it's all about the verbiage, right? It's okay. It's fine. Okay, so that, we're going over the checklist, right? And review the tax records for information about the pricing history. So when you're sitting down with your buyer, this is what we're saying. So a lot of these two you can do prior, right? So when you're scrambling and you're out there and there's a hot property, you don't wanna be doing all this stuff last minute. It's like, oh, we gotta get the offer, there's multiple offers, and then what could happen? You could lose the property. So most of these you can prepare beforehand, right? Ensure the property is still available on the MLS. Just call up the agent. If you ever write a contract from MRED, it actually sends out that notification to the listing agent that an offer was coming in. So most of us use .loop, right? And in our .loop, I know how organized it is. We have the contracts and everything from the pamphlets and everything. So utilize that. So Keller Williams has that in your .loop package. So when you go in there, you put an offer. So if you're going for the buyer, then you make sure you send all that as well. So you have the radon pamphlet, lead-based, right? Everyone know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Cool. That's another thing. Okay, so when speaking of listing agent, build as much rapport, gather as much info about the seller and the property as you can. So it doesn't hurt, like I said, just being real and talking to your co-broks and saying, I got a great buyer, they're so excited, this and this, you know, how's the seller? Are they moving soon? Or, you know, oh, they have to do that. Again, sometimes they're going to be a little more amicable than others, and other agents will be like, well, we don't need to go there, or, you know, they may do that, and that's okay, that's their prerogative. It's just nice where you come from, contribution, and that you are really willing to work as a team. I think that definitely helps. I've been in many multiple offer situations where people start to know your reputation as someone who's pleasant to work with. People are like, wow, we're right there, the same, and I really want you to get it, Jamie, I love working with you. It helps. Whether that's exactly legal or not, I mean, the seller has the right to choose. Even if it's a little bit less money, the agents say, yeah, but I know Jamie, she always gets it done. She'll work with us to get this done. You know, I'll do things that aren't always necessarily your job. You know, oh, pick up the lockbox and bring it to close. Just always just try to work together. Be kind, right? Because at the end of the day, it's really is a team effort. It's not you against
We
me.
both want the same
We
thing.
both want the same resolution, and it really can come, and that's one of our big, right, our number one, win-win, win-win or no deal. So we come from that place. Okay. Ask questions, discover about the time frame, the motivation for moving. So obviously that helps out to address the most pressing needs. So that's even prior to you making the offer though, when you're saying, I'm gonna be putting an offer in, and this comes into lieu with this. So when you know about what the seller's main motivation is, right? Because what logic makes you think, emotion makes you
Feel.
act, right? So if you know how they're thinking, so when you sit there and write your cover letter, does anyone do that with the buyer? You write a cover letter? So, yeah, so, okay, your buyer loves a home, right? And you want to present it. And many homes in our area, especially in the lower end, under 200, under 250, it's very competitive. So it doesn't hurt to make an offer letter. My buyer really loves your property, you know, the tires swing in the back for her 3 kids. And we, you know, they picture themselves making a barbecue. I mean, really visualize it, paint it, because that is going to be sent to the sellers. And the seller is going to have those good warm feels. And they're going to say, oh, you haven't ever heard that? We were going to get into that a little bit more as well, but, you know, let's talk about it.
I advise that that way.
Yes.
Because we,
So everybody do that?
we kind of got on the same thing with the wife. The husband wasn't so sure, this was a little bit lower.
Yeah.
But she loved, because we presented as they're gonna raise their family home just like you.
100%.
Moved out.
And the sellers
She
love it.
wanted my buyer.
Well, the sellers, because it is a very emotional purchase for both sides, right? And how does the seller feel? They would love to leave their home where they raise their family to another that's going to love it just as much as they are, right? That's where the emotion comes in. So as an agent on both ends, you know, you talk to the listing agent, you know where the sellers are going from. Oh, they're going to see grandma. Unfortunately, you know, there was an illness or this or this. So you know to tread, you know, more lightly with things too. So when you go to the repair request, you tell your buyers, listen, they got a lot going on, whether you want to, you know, come in at your lower price now or you know, you leave that for later on for negotiations. Just, you have to put it up there in the beginning. So typically if someone has a lot going on, they're going to make their decision quickly. I mean, just like I said, be real, be kind, like Roberta said. And yeah, the letter though has really helped me a lot. It really feels good with the buyer. You have to get the permission from the buyer, obviously. Personally, I have the buyer even write it themselves.
Right. Some agents don't show it. I've read that some selling agents don't actually forward it or send it to their seller because they feel it's gonna, you know, muddy the water or make them feel weak. I've read that. I haven't found one yet. I mean, but.
Well, then they're not representing your offer, because if that is with your offer and that's where it's considered a cover letter, right?
Yeah.
I never really, you know, always refer to it as a cover letter,
Yeah,
like a
that's
buyer's
good. Yeah,
letter,
yeah.
cover letter.
Yep.
So, how do you present the offer? Do you do that on the contract itself, or do you do an offer in an email?
The contract or the cover letter?
The cover letter and the offer. How do you present the offer? Is it in the contract, or is it
No, so
separate from
we
the
cannot write on a contract, right? So we are just filler inner blinkers. We're not attorneys. We cannot write things on a contract. So that cover letter would be on another piece of paper.
Yeah,
So
I'm saying the cover letter is on a separate piece
Yes.
of paper, but the offer itself.
On a contract,
Is that in the contract?
most definitely.
Okay.
You put your offer on the contract. So we were just going over, were you at the 7.0 class?
Yes.
So that's our new contract as far as like an offer for purchase. So you put your offer on there.
Yeah, I personally put it in the contract, but some buyers have sent an email saying we want to offer this amount without the contract.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so you know what you say? You say, put it in writing. Put it in writing. This is across the board. So when I started a few years ago, right? So it's like 17 years ago I started, right? That's kind of a long time. So it's really different, I'll tell you. And just to give you a little side note, how things have changed with that. So, you know, versus the MLS, versus those books, there was just a transitioning that was happening around that time. And it was like a DOS-based MLS. So it was a little different. However, the same thing with, the offer. So we would actually go to the people's homes
Yes.
And present.
and it was weird because I was just coming in, they're like, oh, you young pups, you don't want to come to the home. We're doing the faxing now. What is this fax? And we faxed everything. And so things were changing at that point, right? So there was a lot, people didn't like it. There was a lot of, well, I'll offer you this. Will you take this? And there was a lot of on the phone, back and forth, back and forth. Right, so they really have squashed that though now, so you won't have that verbal, and you will still have some agents from back in the day that say, well, let's just get this together before I write it. No, everything needs to be in writing, everything needs to be in writing. It's good for you, it's easier, that's how you present it to your seller, because what are they're trying to hit your bottom line, they're trying to, oh, 150, will they take 150? Well, my seller, they might take 140. I mean, you have to be careful. You could really mess that up. Just always say, we would really entertain your offer. My seller will definitely, look, I'll give it to the seller right away. However, it needs to be right.
You're serious.
And some agents will get a little like, it doesn't matter. It's okay. Just be upbeat and say, we really do, appreciate your offer. Every offer has to be right. Does that make sense for that? No email, not an email, it has to be on a contract, all offers. That's how your seller, and you can always put it to your seller. You don't put it on your company or that per seller's request. All offers must be presented. And then be fair about that too with, the offers, if you have a multiple offer situation. Okay, all offers are going to be presented after 5 or whatever, and be fair with that. Like, I don't know, sometimes when we start talking about I don't want to get off tangent about what we're doing. I just feel like sometimes when it comes up, if that's fair, that we should talk about it right? So with that being said too, so when you have the offer come in, right? And you have that, oh, so much time and 5 p.m. we're gonna do this offer. Do you know the seller has the right to pick and choose which ones they want to ask for highest and best or reject or counter? Right? So, so the sellers have the right to pick and choose. And a lot of people don't realize that.
And they have the right to say they don't want to accept it, it's multiple offer, and yes,
Exactly.
I just had people to my house last night, friends, and
Yes.
it was 2 offers, and they were quite different, and they picked one, we made a couple little changes,
Right.
like the date, but they didn't want to go back, so I have to tell one guy.
Right.
So,
And they can go back to 2 people
yeah.
and say, I want highest and best, and the one, they don't have to, they can just negotiate one-on-one. The only thing that they are required, which a lot of agents don't realize, you are allowed to ask, do you have any offers personally? Are there any dual agency offers, meaning dual agency, either you or anyone from your brokerage? And by law, they are supposed to tell you.
Wait, say that one more time. You can ask them if
Listing
they're-
agent, are there
Yes.
any dual agency offers? Meaning either directly from you, the listing agent, or anyone in your office, in your brokerage.
Why
Because
does a
all this-
dual agency matter?
Why
As
would-
opposed to not having a dual agency offer?
So if you are a listing agent and you are both representing the listing agent and the buyer, and we know that agency, you cannot represent both the same, right? So people feel like that's an unfair advantage though, because a lot of people don't represent it with the proper agency.
Sure.
Because you're not supposed to tell the buyer, right? You're not, we actually are not supposed to give a number. We are there to guide, that's why we give the CMA. We're not supposed to tell them exactly what to fill in the blanks. So that's what comes up. So haven't you ever had that, or if there's a multiple offer situation and the listing agent that had the buyer and you see it closed and you're like, well, if it's less than my offer too, that's not fair. So then they know where the bidding war is gonna be. If it's a highest and best, right? Then they're gonna say, well, the seller's willing to go to 151. And then if the other offer comes in at 152, we'll just bump it up another grand. There could be some dishonesty there, right? Did you have a question? Yeah. So that comes into play. So a lot of agents don't know how to use that. Legally, you are allowed, or that they are supposed to answer. Okay. Our checklist, we go through that. Present the offer to the listing agent. Oh, so the disclosure statement, so you know that online, the MLS, many times they are already downloaded, right? Many times they are. And it is what it is, don't get all, in a tizzy if they're not there, and then wait, because you could lose your offer. Okay, there's the attorney review period, there's the inspection period, so you'll get those disclosures. Do you see what I'm saying?
So
If you sit there and wait for the agent to send it to you before you present it all, that's a lot of time. Remember, utilize what's in the contract. You're looking something.
Because I thought by law, and I could be wrong, the disclosures technically are supposed to be filled out before writing a contract. In case there's anything really bad in the disclosures, that was the way I was told, maybe I wasn't taught correctly. But by law, I have my buyers fill out the disclosures before we even do a contract.
Before you do a contract. I just know the disclosures need to be done, not prior to seeing it, but when you're going to put an offer. But there's where there's those clicks where it says, I did not receive, I did receive in the contract. So sometimes you receive it, sometimes you don't. So utilize that. I just know time is of the essence when you're doing an offer. You don't want to wait. Oh, the listing agent, you didn't download the disclosures in there, we'll wait for them. Well, if you wait a day or maybe even two, someone else will just get in there. So I utilize the attorney review and your inspection, because within that 5 days, you can pull out for no matter what. So if you got the disclosures in that time, and then you see something, like, oh, wow, we're not even going to pay for whatever. So I would get the offer in and then reiterate, hey, we didn't get the disclosures, we really want them. So it's still within that 5 day before you spend your money on your inspection and everything. That's personally what I do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was gonna basically say the same thing. I didn't think you could do that. I didn't think you could write.
Well, it's in the
an offer.
contract, right?
No, I'm saying I didn't think you could write an offer and present an offer without having those disclosures.
But it is in the contract.
Right.
I did receive, I did not
You're right,
receive.
You're right.
So utilize the contract. That's it. Make the contract your friend.
Mhm.
Use it to the advantage where a lot of people aren't.
Yeah, I thought the same thing too, because I wanted my buyer to look at the disclosure to decide whether they wanted to go ahead with the offer. But now, since you're saying that they do have 5 days to pull out.
Yeah,
so that
regardless.
makes sense.
And time is of the essence, right?
Yeah.
So I do think that's a big thing. And again, I feel like it's giving me an advantage a lot of times for getting offers in where other people are waiting and you snooze, you lose. Use that contract as your friend. Don't get scared of that. And let's face it, what do most of the disclosures say? Most of the time they're clean,
Yeah,
even if they shouldn't be.
right.
Let's face it, right?
I don't know.
Very seldom I ever said, oh, the basement leaks all the time, it's terrible, oh my gosh,
You're right.
right? So chances are, 9 out of 10 times, those disclosures are all down the middle, right? So let's face it. All right, and then obviously we just talked about that, so you find out if there's any other offers. One cool thing too, for the people, have you looked on Command yet? Do you see the link in the private Facebook about Command? Okay, well, we'll get into the Command. It's for the Keller Williams. I know that's so one cool thing that's coming out. So Command is actually going to be there. It's artificial intelligence with Kelly, right? And when you get multiple offers in your email, it's going to eventually be able to scan all your offers, put it all together, and give you the probability of which one's the strongest offer. So when you go present, it's crazy. Yeah, so when you go to your seller, you're gonna be like, well, we got 5 offers, however, this has an 84% chance of close, this has a 50% chance of close, because it's going to look at it with all the data, using artificial intelligence, it's going to know with all the terms and everything, which is the strongest offer. So you got even that to back you up to help you. And it's gonna be presented like, wow, it's really gonna be cool. So that's just like a thing when I thought about that, because that's something I'm really excited.
Spreadsheet done for you.
Yeah, it's like a spreadsheet done for you, and it's just like automatic, and we're a technology company, and the sellers are really gonna appreciate that, and everything's gonna be fast. So you're gonna save so much time, it's crazy.
Wow, that's
I just wanted to mention that, I thought that was cool. Oh, and another thing that I thought, so, because we're talking about the buyer, right? So make sure you don't sit there and tell the buyer, we want them to write offers, right? But don't be like, oh, this is the one, you got it, oh, this is the one, right? This is it, we gotta get this offer in. Because what happens sometimes? Deals fall apart, right? So if you're telling them this is the one, it's the best, and then something happens, how are you gonna backtrack and get them to go out with you again,
Good point.
right? So always just be positive, but somewhat unbiased, like, this is great opportunity for you, it's a perfect home, it's got everything you want, let's go for it. And, you know, I go with that old adage, like, if it's not meant to be, it really isn't. I mean, and it truly happens like that. Personally, for my own home buying, you know, many years ago, and when I see other people, you know, the home that they wanted and something happened, it fell apart, there's always something that they find and they're like, oh, it was just meant to be. I love this one so much more.
And I'm so glad the other one didn't work out.
So-
That's what's happened in my, they don't know it at the time, and I
They
tell
don't know
them
it at the
that, and I say, you might not believe me, but it's true. I
Yes.
tell them of the ones that haven't worked.
Right.
The next one was better, and they're happy the first one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you say that though for later on. I'm just saying, be excited, however, don't do it to a detriment to yourself to where you have to backtrack and go, oh, there's another number one out there. Don't worry about it, right? So it's just how we talk, and we have to be careful because we're excited too, let's face it. We're excited, especially when you're shopping with the buyers for a long time.
And you're a new agent.
And you're a new agent. And you're like, that's another thing. So don't get tied up. As hard as it sounds, especially when you are a new agent, try hard. No, there is no try. Don't get caught up in those results. Because if people see those dollar signs in your eyes, that's what they start to look at us as, you know, that used car salesperson. And I'm not trying to put them down either, you know. It's just that bad, right? They look at us like, oh, you just want to get paid. Like really, when you come from the period of like, I really want to help, you come from that, it's genuine, and you know what's going to happen, they are your client. And if it's not this home, you will find one. So just really put that in yourself that, you know, it's going to happen. All right, we talked about that one. Talked about that, let's see. All right, offer objection, practice scripts for overcoming. So that, there's actually a few more things we didn't even talk about there. So we talked about writing the offer. So a lot of times, you know, we don't want to just read off what's here, right? So we talked about summarizing the offer, humanizing the offer, find loop, in the loop, use the email messaging feature and transactions to submit the cover letter along with the offer. So they talk about the cover letter. I just want to make sure that for here we have everything. What does everyone think about the cover letter? You like that idea? You're not using it?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. And sometimes even set that up with your, that makes them feel really included in the process. So like, what is it about this house that you like? Let's tell the seller. And I really feel like that makes a good bond. It's definitely made a difference. I know for a fact I've gotten the offers based
So
on
you
that.
have them actually write it?
Yes.
You have them write it?
If they're able to. If they're able to, if I feel I'm a little bit, you know, stronger with words than they are, sometimes people, English is their second language.
Right.
And things like that. I will sit there and talk to them and say, oh, so this is what you're saying, and I'll write it and I'll have them sign it, or have them verify it that it's from there. And that, because that paper trail, if you will, from that email or with them signing, that's showing the permission. Because you don't want to use anything, any personal info, right? So you gotta be very careful about that. Your buyer may be like, I'm a single mom, just divorced with 2 kids. However, if she doesn't give you permission to say that, and you say that, you're in big trouble. Because somebody might think that's not, you know, what if it backfires, the seller doesn't like divorces? Right, whatever chance. Or yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, that could be, you never know. So, you know, in that sense, you always wanna cover your assets.
Well, I know that, I guess I didn't realize that it was a cover letter. When I was working in the city, we were in a situation where it was a big home, needed a lot of rehab, needed a lot of work.
Right.
So there was multiple offers, because the home was priced low, multiple offers, and the buyer that got the home because there was a letter that was attached to their offer. I didn't realize that it was the cover one. You know, I'm a new agent, so I didn't realize that.
Right.
But there was the reason why that the owners accepted the offer that they did was because of the letter, that they just got that feeling of, you know,
100%.
these are who I want to buy my home.
Like I told you, I can't stress that enough.
I didn't realize that that's what it was.
Right. Because emotion makes you act.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we talk to our sellers the way we do, when they go back about pricing, right? Price adjustments. Well, do you want to really go to Tennessee to see the grandkids and move? So that's when they work it, you put it back to what actually makes you
Great idea.
act.
Buying and selling a home is a very emotional
It's extremely
experience,
emotional.
like falling in love.
Exactly. So, logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. I mean, I can't stress that one enough. That's a bold law, right? Okay, so, checklist for writing an offer, this, we went through that too. I don't know why they did that kind of twice. Pricing terms, seller's disclosure, if they're there, if they're not there, covenants is, consider what items in the home will transfer or convey to the buyer, typically attached fixtures stay, and movable items go. And there's always some different, discrepancy with that, like say if there's an island in the kitchen, and is it movable, is it something that stays? That's where you can utilize on that writing other items, and technically your buyer is to write that in, because again, we are not attorneys, it's coming from the buyer. So other items, the island in the kitchen, right, or the shed, things like that. So make sure if there's anything that's on the fence, just put that
I
there.
heard a wine cooler was on the fence and another one, because there was like main refrigerator, one in the garage, someone, an instructor said there was a wine
Yes.
refrigerator. So they said all refrigerators or whatever.
Yes.
They didn't include the sellers took it. So,
See?
Yeah, yes, you have to be specific.
A little specific,
Yeah.
which is, I mean,
Yeah.
if I'm selling a property, I mean, I would think that you would offer, but don't assume anything.
I
when it
just
comes
had
to that.
a combo washer dryer
Yes.
myself, that I just wrote on last night. It was brand new, they put it in the house, because it was a renovation,
Okay,
and it's a combo stackable.
right,
So she had checked the buying agent and checked washer dryer. I just kind of put a little thing like together, and I just wrote combo, just in case they don't come back and say
Sure.
separate washer dryer, so I did write.
Right.
And then the attorney can fix it.
the attorney will go over that and fix that, you just wanna make sure that, because the attorney didn't see the house, right? So that's why it's really important that you have a good team, that you work well with your attorney, work well with your inspector.
They had marked a automatic garage door, it's not, it's a lift.
It's a
So
lift
I
door.
crossed that off and they had a.
Sure.
initial change.
And that happens too, and if you didn't catch that,
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes that can happen later on if the attorney doesn't know what's going on,
There
so.
were like 4 or 5 things she didn't mark, like there's a sump pump and the sellers wanted them to know, so I checked it.
Right.
It's there, then I'm gonna take it, so.
It's there, or like it is an automatic garage door opener, I would just put like all transmitters.
Exactly. all.
Instead of, you don't know, just put all. So there's little tips of the trade that you do, learn.
Yes.
There's in that section where it says all fixtures and all electrical and all of that
Yes,
is included. Do you still have to mark it off with the checklist?
where it says, it'll say all light fixtures.
Yeah, all light fixtures, but they have light fixtures box for you to check.
Yes,
So,
yeah, most definitely, check it. You'll see it a lot though, REO homes or bank-owned homes, and they don't mark it, they don't do really bare minimum. Right, they don't really want you to mark that, I mean, that's a little different story, but we're talking traditional, residential, sales, yeah, mark it, especially if it's important. It's better to overmark and have someone say, we don't have it, than to undermark, and then say, well, you never marked it. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's a good point though. Let's see. The earnest money, obviously you have to make sure if your company holds it or not, we do hold earnest money. Time, that's another thing. So in our industry, I don't know if you've ever, where you have your buyers say, well, don't they have 24 hours or 48 hours? There's a lot of HGTV watching out there, right? There's a lot of people from other states, and things are a little different. I was actually always, I've asked the board, I've asked specific questions. I'm like, what is the time? Because that deal that I did do in the more southern half of Illinois, their contract's totally different, and every time you counter, it's written. And the hours are right there. This must be either rejected or accepted within 24 hours. I mean, their time, everything was very, and I just thought it was so interesting. Same state, different. Here, there's really no set. They said it's industry standard. That type of, which is very loose language, right? Obviously. So typically, I would say it's usually 24 to 48 hours. Typically. However, you're gonna have a buyer that's like, okay, it's been 24, it's been 48. Things happen. I mean, so you can get out of something for the untimeliness within that 5 days then, if you will. However, before then, I mean, you're still offering. And then you're gonna have buyers that wanna keep putting offers everywhere too. You gotta be very careful with that, because legally, they're actually in a contract, and now they're nailing down with this new 7.0. So there looks like there's not a lot of changes in that, but that is one that they wanna nail down with the buyer hoppers. So make sure that they do, and I believe they even went over that, make sure it's like, this is the house you want on offer, this is what you wanna do. And then financing terms, make sure that it matches. I just helped a new agent the other day. He's a brand new agent, and he was looking at the home, and, you know, and always, there's always someone here. You know, we have your productivity coach, team leaders, ALC members, there's always someone here to help, especially with if you're newer with the contracts in the beginning, or all of us are new to 7.0, right? So we can mastermind together. So he was offering on this property, and I looked, and it said conventional, and his pre-approval letter was FHA. I'm like, you're not gonna get a chance with this one, because I even saw the pictures, and it was not going to pass FHA, not even a traditional conventional. So although that we're not lenders, we do have to understand the nuances of the loans. So if there's you know, a toilet missing in the bathroom, that is not gonna pass FHA. Although a toilet, you can get one for less than $100, right? It's cheap, it's a cheap fix. It won't pass FHA if there's not the working bathroom. So, and if it states there, seller is unwilling to make any repairs, although it's only $100, or we'll go in and we'll do it, that is not going to work. So if you're able to do the conventional, so there's different conventional programs that are really similar to FHA with a little bit of money down. You just have to have a lender that's really knowledgeable. So that's why it's so important to have a lender that knows their stuff in and out to help you out. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
And you know, he did listen to me, and then we went back to the lender, and I called the lender and I explained what was going on. So the lender was like, okay, and you know, sometimes we know. And I said, what about that program where it's only? And he's like, oh yeah, we do have that. Let me see. And he went and checked the credit. I said, you know, can you do a rapid rescore on them? Can you do this? Can you do that? So in a sense, I'm telling him how to do his job in a nice way, but I'm knowledgeable with that. I'm like, well, his score is a little low. That's why I didn't go conventional. Well, can you pull it up? What does he have? And he does this. So the buyer is being pre-approved now for conventional. However, the property, they already did accept someone who was prepared and ready. So that taught that agent a big lesson, but I helped for him to keep that buyer though, because now they're powerful. They can still use FHA, and they can use the conventional though, because they're looking in the area where a lot of the properties do have those type of issues. Yeah.
I just lost a deal because my buyer found a property and she was FHA approved.
Yeah.
And the listing agent didn't put in the MLS whether it was conventional or FHA.
Right.
So we put an offer on the property. I contacted the lender said, go ahead, it's a, you know, good deal, put an offer on it. We put an offer on it, and then the listing agent asked, is your buyer going FHA or conventional? And I told him FHA. And so then I found out that the seller wanted a conventional buyer.
Sure.
So the lender said, oh, we can do conventional, we can do the 5% something conventional. You know, we can take it out of FHA and do it conventional. And then later found out that she had bankruptcy. Well, he knew she had a bankruptcy.
And then qualify for that program.
Right. And
right.
Do the deal.
Right. So that those things do happen. So that's why as an agent, we have to know what we're getting into, because it's the listing agent doesn't have to, by law, put in there. Because honestly, they don't know. I'd rather the listing agent not specify FHA, because I'll go in there and I'm like, oh, this will pass FHA. And it's from doing things a while too and knowing. And to be honest, back in the day, FHA had a really bad connotation because their appraisers were really strict. They'd be like, oh, wow, this is crooked or this is loose, and it would kill the deal right away. It's not like that anymore. It really isn't. The appraisals for conventional and FHA are very, very similar. And VA as well. I mean, I've had sellers where they deny, they won't accept, because VA and FHA are very similar in the way it's underwritten. And I just think that's really pretty disgusting to me, is to deny a vet if they're VA, to not even look at their loan. So I've put that in cover letters too. That, you know, I know you said no FHA, however, your home, I really believe it's going to do this and this, and, you know, let's uplift the vet. I mean, let's let them have a home. So I've actually used that because it's gotten to me a little bit, because I'm like, there's no reason not, because they have that in their head, oh, I don't want some real strict appraisal coming on my property. Only want conventional. A lot of sellers they're not professionals in our business, right? So we have to show who's the professional. You know, or cash only. I mean, we're really limiting the buyers. So, yeah, so there's different circumstances for that. Sometimes not FHA if they flip the property and it's been a certain amount of months. So there are sometimes where you can't go FHA, and I understand that. But again, that's why it's so important to talk to the co-broker, figure it out. What's going on with the seller? Oh, it's a flip. Oh, you just bought it last month and now you're putting it. In that essence, FHA won't do it because they run the risk of, you know, having those inflated prices, and they're actually trying to protect the consumer. It's all trying to protect the buyer, which a lot of people don't realize. FHA loan is a great loan that protects the buyer. Did you have a question?
Just being new to this.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so I have to learn the FHA rules too. So I have to learn. I mean, this is a whole nother section that I have to start learning for my buyers or sellers as far as the financing part.
Well, you'll learn it, and that's why it's really important. This program, we're doing the preview of the homes, and I think that would be even a really great thing to get together and, you know, preview the same home, and then get together and mastermind and say, what do you think? Do you think this would pass FHA? Do you not? Okay, I'll tell you one big red flag when you go into a home and there's peeling paint. That FHA, you know, won't allow it. Now, I've been out there, and if the seller allows it, I've helped scrape some paint in my day. I've scraped the paint on the garage, you know, it's not always a big deal. Like I said, the toilet, less than $100 fix. Would you allow us to go in and fix it? Sometimes they will. All you have to do is ask, right? If you don't ask,
They can say no.
they can say no.
It's the worst they can do.
Worst they can do. You know, I wouldn't suggest always to put a substantial amount of money. Oh, they don't have a this, they don't have a this. You know, that's getting a little crazy. And you're going to see it in different markets. So we're going into a shifting market, right? So when we have different buyers. So a few years back, I mean, people were looking for buyers. So it's like, we'll work with you. So when we're in different markets where, you know, we've got 5 other people that have cash, we don't really need. So you'll see that change, right? So the sellers will be more open when they don't have any buyer. Oh, you're FHA? Sure. You want to put the toilet in? We'll let you do it, you know. So it's always depends on the market too.
Okay.
So you just have to be able to think that through. You always want the advantage for that. Makes sense? They're just little tips of the trade. And I feel like the more transactions you do, the more you get comfortable. And then you have those light bulbs that come on. Didn't think, well, okay, I see this. However, maybe we could do this. We could do this. And you just look on how to solve the problem. Does that make sense? Because where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, I really believe that. Get her done. Right. Closing date, right? A lot of times, the closing date, people go to that date like it's etched in stone. I mean, it's not. We're the realtor. We put something that seems feasible. You know what your lender can close. You know what kind of loan it is. If it's a 203K, don't be putting 30 days, even if your lender said they could do it, because those loans take usually a little longer. They're rehab loans. Yeah, you have a question?
I'm sorry. So, didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
No.
So what does everybody, just because I am a newer agent,
Right.
what do you write as far as how many days? Is it 30 days? Or you just said not to do 30 days? So like, do you
Depending on the
normally do
loan. Like I
45?
said, if you have a 203K loan, like a rehab loan, don't put 30 days. If you have a cash, don't put a week. You still need to get title. Things still take time. Even though you have cash, proof of funds, it's still gonna take 2-3 weeks.
Conventional FHA, what do you do?
Well, talk to your lender. I always, if your lender, see what they say. But typically, standards 30 to 45 days. Back in the day, it used to be 60, then 45, 30. It can always be changed. However, you don't necessarily want it to be changed where you need the time. Excuse me. You know, but in this day and age, I mean, there's people that close loans 10 days.
Mhm.
So you don't want to put yourself out there too when this gets presented in a multiple offer situation to the seller well, this one, they need 45 days, this one needs 30, let's go with the 30. They won't even ask to counter those terms sometimes. So you don't wanna put yourself out, because those are things that can always be changed later on, right? As long as you're on the dates with a commitment date, and typically when they start the loan, right, so it's on the contract. Typically they should have that within 2-3 weeks. Okay, so that's typically how I do it. And then you have that good relationship with your lender. And then when you do a few deals, you know your lender. You know if they're telling you the truth. You know if they say 30 days is 30 days, or 10 days is 10 days, or, okay? And ask us here, the people that use the lenders, the people that use the inspectors. We know the ones that are legit, that are on their game, right? Makes sense. I mean,
What if you had you were writing a contract that was contingent on sale? What would you write that?
well, depending, a lot of times,
Wise.
first of all, the chances of you getting a contract contingent on sale are pretty slim to none. I know as a listing agent, if I had one contingent on sale and one that wasn't,
So,
what would you choose?
Typically, they don't do that
Typically,
anymore.
there still are chances, but okay, figure this out. So if you need 30 days to get your loan for there, right? And depending on the home, have you listed it yet? Do you have an offer? Is it contingent on close or contingent on sale? So do you need additional 30 days for that? So you're looking at being pushed out, I would say 45 to 60 days, right? That's not really going to work in your best advantage. I mean, it happens in different parts of our country more than here. And I have seen it happen more this year. And it's not, I would always suggest, again, with the lender, do what they call like a bridge loan. So they have different types of lending actually too, where if they can hold the note for the 2 homes just temporarily, then once that closes, so then your client doesn't even have to sit there and put it on the contract that they are contingent on sale. So there's things that you can do. Does that make sense? Again, that gives you the added advantage. Don't show your cards, you know? You could need something to sell. However, if it's not conducive in you buying that home, don't put it out there. If your lender is able to hold that, quote the note for this amount of time, and you want that home, then it's not a contingent on sale. Do you follow? Okay. Again, it's something that you learn when you're going through the offers, and you'll have the situation, just ask. Because there's always something new that happens. And that's where the contract is your friend, you know. Repair limit. So we talked a little bit about that with the repair. So with that new contract, be very clear with your buyer as far as like what's happening a lot now. People are putting this offer just to get, they're like, let's put it up high, then we're gonna get it down at inspection. This has been happening more and more lately. It's a multiple offer situation. Let's put a really high number out. I know we're gonna get our credits when we do an inspection. That's not the way to really play. Okay, people don't like that. Be reasonable with the offer and make sure your buyer knows through an inspection, if there's something that's really detrimental, you could back out. You could ask the seller for credit, you know, so there are different ways. However, in that new contract, they're really making sure that you know if you ask for those limits over and above what the seller's willing, the seller can say, no, we don't want to do those repairs or give you that credit. And you know, by the way, we're out of this offer, right? So be very careful, especially in a multiple offer, because when they know that someone's trying to play a game, that's not gonna fly well, especially if the listing agent is knowledgeable about that game too, right? So do you see what I'm saying with that, right? Okay. Again, it takes, that's why it's really important you have a great lender and a great inspector. I can't emphasize that enough, to have a great team. You don't want them to kill a deal. You know, we always hear that, right? We want the buyer and the seller, we want them to feel that they are being represented well. However, there's a way to represent it, right? I'll give an example. I had a first-time home buyers. Are we still cool or are we boring?
No.
Okay. Okay, I had first-time home buyers, because I always think the stories are fun. And, you know, they trust you. They're like, they're big-eyed. We went to this totally remodeled home. It looked beautiful, right? Everything great. Nobody's living in there. Had an inspection done. And when we're going to be closing soon, I mean, the seller had already projected to the comment about the electricity. You know, nowadays, that's another thing we could even talk about. Don't do that too soon because we have power grids now where things get shut off and turned on like that. Not like back in the day where it would take a week, 2 weeks. So anyways, power was out. We go in there and it's October. So it's not like cold, it's not hot, right? And the inspector's like, what do you mean? The thermostat's not on, the power's out. Oh, no. This house, that's it. Temperature hasn't been regulated, mold. Mold, this is gonna have mold everywhere. And he just kept saying the M word, mold, mold, oh my gosh, this is terrible. And I'm like, I never used them. They didn't go with my suggestion because they were price hopping and they found the cheapest of the cheap that they could find. And he came in there and then he wanted to charge them an additional like whole inspection fee because the electric was out, you know, it just wasn't working with them. And their eyes, you should see them, oh, they don't mold, right? And I said, I said, stop. So usually, you know, you'll hear mixed messages, whether it's good to go on inspections or whether it's not. So I had to put him in his place though, because what he was doing was actually really unprofessional and disservice, right? And I said, stop. You know, that's not, I don't even have my heat on in my home. Is at the time, right? So you're saying that I'm creating the mold because I have no heat. So it's like those scare tactics because they want to seem like they're, oh, I'm the professional. I know about this, but 72 degrees and this and this. And he's just rambling off numbers and it was just weird. So I was able to, you know, explain it to the buyers and everything. And they did end up buying the home. However, they were really scared. They're like, well, he's a professional. He said mold. Now what do? We have to have mold, you know? So again, I suggested for them to use, it just didn't work. And then they also use a different attorney, same couple, and I'm thinking about, they're price looking. So this specific attorney, he can never answer any repairs or anything like that because he was in court all day and then he said, I'll answer your calls after 5. Can't stress enough. Deal with real estate attorneys only. Not someone who does DUIs on the side and, you know, parking tickets. Real estate attorney. There's a lot of them, right? This, you know, not the jack of all trades. All right, so we're gonna get back into the offer objections. You guys wanna take a little break? Are you good for, I know you just got here. Are you ready for a little break? We do some jumping jacks or something now? All right, take a couple minute break. I don't know what their usual thing is, but we did start a little bit later. We wanna get through. How was the weather for you, right? At least you're a trooper. You one of the troopers that made it. Right?
No kidding.
Is it working good, Corey?
I just need this.
Oh. It's okay, we're on a break.
We live
Calumet City, over there by the Indiana border.
okay.
Right,
It's hard.
Yeah, you probably get out of it.
Can you request that the inspector?
It was really simple when I moved there until I got like.
I don't have, personally, like, would they typically stay?
Really?
Is,
We sat there.
you know, the pipes, is it a whole
Yes.
house?
And I was like, is there an accident or something? There was no,
There's a lot of times there's pockets in some of the older homes where
And
it's
it's
not
like, and as I was
insulated,
sitting there,
like
it was
underneath the sinks
right
and things
here.
like
And
that,
I
or
was
the
just-
pipes
I
can
can see me.
So they just
go
can't.
close to the home, like around here, that's not the case. So you gotta be careful with that. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Right. Well, I would say you want the optimal temperature, you know, the furnace is running at 70, what's the temperature like in your home?
While I'm sitting
So as
there.
long as the
there's
temperature in the home
right,
is okay. However, some of the older homes, you need to set the thermostat to 70, 50, right?
Right.
So it's all about the temperature in the home. Those pockets, like I said. We don't want to take that out of the, so they put it to a professional.
And come all the way over here.
We'll try to comment, right? Comment or professional inspector. However, I would do this, however, I'm not being professional when it comes to temperature regulation. Right, you can give advice, but always put a, you know, that you're not professional. And you guys always get stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I
You
would
can
probably
say
say
that,
that.
you're not trying to act like you're. When it comes to like attorney things, like, well, this is a
the turn
Yeah, the turns out.
But I would give that example, I mean, like sometimes at home, I mean, had issues in the past, underneath the sink, are there little pockets where it's a little colder than others? Maybe, you know, like my neighbor, right, you know, I'm afraid it's not. So,
I know some of these homes, you know, Burbank,
you know, so I don't expect that, but in Grant's Road, I mean, so the pipes are flying, and you know where my way, I'm like,
that's why I always say,
you know,
My back is sliding
you're
towards
sort of
the,
living in the home.
you know, it's like a ditch right there. You know, like, oh my God.
However, there's certain areas that are
So I
getting.
was like, okay, good. So I'm like,
Yeah, just always save yourself like an hour.
and
Hopefully that
I got
helps.
to 167,
I think you did
so
right.
the same thing, turning 1 to 108.
We can't foresee.
That's what I'm saying.
So I was like,
Right. He has to understand that.
but
That's why he's asking how long
because
he
I
does
sat
it.
there waiting to just get
But
off
he's,
the
like,
phone.
it's funny because he owns the property, so like, just texting me to ask me about, I don't know.
Right. I mean, when homes are sometimes vacant and, you know, you see bank-owned homes, not to learn that they heat, you know, at 55, I mean, as long as it's above freezing. However, what if it's not well insulated? That's what it comes down to. Yeah, we're gonna do those cool scripts there next, huh?
No.
I found out I guess it's famous that it's been, my first grandchild.
Oh, wow, congrats.
They did the gender reveal this week, yesterday. And I'm having a granddaughter.
Oh.
Just on top of the moon.
How
I just can't
exciting. And this
I
is
was
the
so
first
sure,
one.
my first one. And I was so sure it was a boy. So sure. Because, you know, they say the male determines the sex, right?
Yes.
Well, there has been female born into the mass right now, so it's been spatially. And like, I don't know, 4 generations. So I'm like, it's a boy, it's a boy, it's a boy, it's a boy. It's a girl. And we went to do it. And
So, you have one son?
I have 2 boys.
2 boys?
Yeah.
Oh,
How are you?
I'm super excited.
Oh, that's
Oh
awesome.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm proud of us. Okay. And that's 6 months. Yeah. So you're like, oh.
that's exciting. I know this is- I have just 3 boys.
Oh, you guys. So you got to
It's definitely different. Especially when you're with the boys, you know, they're like, oh, there's a special bond between that as well, that is so different. I mean, it's just nice to be able to have both of those experiences. So now you have it.
So now I will. You know what I said to my husband? This is so
Right.
because boys, you know, they're not whiny. They throw their temper tantrums. They might be destructive, but you know, my boys will really and
Right.
crying over everything.
Right.
You know, like little girls do. You know, you can just give a little girl a, you know, mom look and you're
Right, right.
So I'm like, great. I'm gonna get whiny and cranky. Mark, done? Don't get to be girl.
Exactly.
It's done.
And I think in that respect though, I know that wine is not always fun.
You're right.
It's just, but the destruction level is.
Oh, the destruction.
That's rough.
The teenage years are
Not at all.
no. I'll do.
I have a rental 14964.
Oh, oh, yeah, you're just in the beginning
Of the
stages.
teenager stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Whew.
You know, I said that,
It's not fun, that teenager.
you know, everybody was like, oh, teenagers, teenagers. I found that the age between 14 was the worst boys. Between 14 and 16. Why? Because they think they're all grown.
Sure.
And they think they know it all. And they think they're just, they're men now.
Right.
I'm a man.
I see it happen at different levels, right? Yeah, depending on when they mature.
Right.
Physical maturity and then.
What did?
Not all the kids are the same.
No. And what I would always say, you know, you guys think you're grown. You guys think you're all grown. Let me tell you something.
Oh, yeah.
You're still little boys. Doing the things, like, you're trying so hard to be grown.
I know. clients coming around and understanding, it's just, it's. A little bit sooner.
Oh, wait, till the state.
Oh, I got that. What is that? What is that, right?
You know, and it showed. I'm over in school, it's like, boy,
Right.
go get those clothes off, go get a shower, did you graduate this morning?
Right. Those boys can definitely be right.
I'm like, oh my goodness, they grow on it. And they do grow on it, you know, because once the girls come around. I'm like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's doing it. It's just like you said, though, it's just that it's natural. You know, it's like, I think I went through that though, too, like at 12. I think he was an early bloomer. I didn't stop recording, so I don't know about my voice smelling like.
Sure, that's how I was. I'm like, here, you should go around me and stuff. And I'm like, really?
Right? Hey, and you scroll down the road, you know? Especially a man. You know, you see a man with his right. You know, I'm a female, like, somebody else.
All right. We'll get started. Next. All right, guys. We're gonna start back up. Break's over. Socializing's done. We did get a little later start, and we're catching up with everything. I think we're running good on time. We may even get done even a little sooner because of the daily 10 board. A lot of numbers learning, right?
Yeah, right?
Yes. I just had to do mine 411. And right. And there's the. Oh, guys, you know all the numbers I'm talking about, right? Okay, anyways, turn to page 17. This is where we have our objections. So these are the scripts that we're going to role play on. Okay? So we'll go through it and then we're going to break up into little groups. Okay? So if you want to look at it. So this is when the buyer wants the seller to make repairs. Right? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, until you have a physical inspection, we will not know how much these items will cost. And we could find additional repairs we may want to negotiate. Consequently, you have three choices. One, you can offer the seller less money now to compensate for these items. Two, you can ask the seller now for a credit to repair these items using your own contractor. Or three, I usually advise clients to wait for the physical inspection and negotiate all repair items at one time. How would you like me to negotiate this offer on your behalf? See how they did that? Right. So this is what we were talking about, especially with the 7.0, where it's really important to not have it open where that buyer can get out of it, the seller can get out of it. So obviously 3 is one that, I don't know, I personally use. However, don't play the game. Don't think you're going to get $10,000 off. Like, oh, that roof doesn't look good, or that might have some mold. Okay, so when the buyer wants to make a low offer, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, there are 3 ways to negotiate a transaction. 1, you can make a low offer and run the risk of the seller rejecting it or countering back at full price to compensate. 2, you can make an offer closer to the asking price and be less flexible if there is a counter offer. 3, if you really want this home and are concerned that another buyer may purchase it, you can make a full price offer and give the seller what they want. It's your choice. How would you like me to negotiate this offer? So you see, again, we don't tell them the price. They tell us the price. However, I would even put that in our market too. Don't let them think that because they're offering asking price, they're going to get the property. Right? You see where the home sells for even over asking price. And some agents actually list a home purposely to have a bidding war. You'll see that. You're like, wow, this is priced low. Why? So they will actually have it calculated method to list that. Have you seen that? We have that a lot in our area. So you gotta be very careful because they're looking at you and you don't want them to think it's a sure win, because a lot of buyers do. They're like, well, I gave them what they asked for. Why is it in ours? So there's another, since we're talking about that, tips of the trade. Not only is it the price, it's the components of the loan, right? Whether it's fair or not, conventional is usually deemed more stable than FHA, and cash, right, is key. We've all heard about that. However, just because you offer cash, which a lot of cash buyers, they think, well, I'm gonna offer cash, then they can come in lower or anything.
Right.
No, that's not the case. Maybe way back in the day, you'd see that more, but now, no. They'll wait an extra week for 10,000 more or whatever from a loan. But that definitely comes into play with that. You just don't want them to think that. Earnest money, there's another, the more earnest money you give, sometimes that makes it more appealing to the seller. Where they'll say, well, they got more skin in the game. They're real. So their down payment, they're saying they're putting 10% down. They're offering $5,000 earnest money where the other person is offering $1,000. You can't do no $500 or $1,000. You're buying a $500,000 house and you want to offer $1,000 earnest money? Yeah, I don't think that looks so great, especially when you're saying you're going to put even 3% down. That's $15,000. And just reiterate that, when things go, if you back out, that the earnest money does come back to you. In the city, for example, you have to know your market. They don't play around with those low amounts. I don't know if anyone works in the city, but they do large amounts. You'll see them actually use that clause with the, we're gonna offer 5,000 earnest money now, and in 5 days, we'll give you an additional 10, or they use that a lot in the city, and it's no small change, because it's extremely competitive, and they have the big bucks out there with those offers. So that's another way to make your offer look more appealing, earnest money. The closing date, the length, again, if you put 30 days versus 60 days, or anything like that, right? That would be more appealing typically of the seller, or perhaps even the opposite. That's why it's important to talk to the listing agent. What's the expectations of the seller? Are they moving, or this or that? And you're like, hey, we're really open. I heard your seller needs to move and they have a lot of things to pack up. We're willing to give them that extra 30 days. Sometimes it's the opposite. They want more time. So that's always a way you can make your offer look more advantageous by showing that you are definitely willing to be on the side for the seller to help make their lives easier. Anyone else have any other tidbits you think about that part? We're on page 17. We just went over the buyer objection. So we're gonna get into little groups, and then there's one more script on the back. So 18, we have present the offer to the listing agent. Oh, that's the second thing. So let's just go and do those objections. You want to go in a group of two and practice role play? No? Page 17. Your turn. Buyer offer objections, right?
So we're just gonna go over the ones that we just went over?
I mean, that's what we went over. I mean, do you feel like do you do role play before? Do you feel like that's good, or do you want to just kind of do an open role play like this, or ask any questions? I don't know how you guys prepare to do it, because I mean, if you're gonna go back and forth, or how do you feel?
How do we list it?
What do you usually do with that? Do you like the role play with groups of two? Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Go ahead.
We need a small class, we can maybe do it open.
Open.
Right? Want to do it open? I know we do have a small class, as I was saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So which one would you typically do then with that? 1, 2, or 3? I mean, okay, so I read that, right? And then you are the buyer. How would you like me to negotiate this offer on your behalf? Yeah. You're gonna negotiate the deal. We're on, make and receive offers. That's the one before, yeah.
So you're saying, how would I want you to present the offer?
Right, so this is,
Okay.
I think I want you to wait for the inspection.
that's what I was saying. I feel like there's not a lot of meat to like go back and forth. I mean, typically, what is the buyer or what is the seller going to say? Okay, I usually advise clients to wait for the physical, but okay. you know?
Mhm.
Is that what you usually suggest? Then we can do that. I, though, said I would stress that this is not the time to think that you're gonna get, you know, X amount off. We'll see what happens. I mean, price accordingly. Don't think like I'm gonna go 10,000 up, thinking we're gonna find $10,000 worth of repairs.
Right.
Because we very well may not find much of any, okay? I just think this is a good way just to present, just to show that you're giving them the option. You are running the show, if you will, however, under their direction. Because that's what we're supposed to do.
Well, like you said, we're giving them suggestions, we're giving them options of
Right.
how.
Because nobody wants to be told what to do, and legally, we can't tell them.
Right.
However, there's not a lot of like objections as far as here. I mean, what are they gonna say? We have 3 ways to negotiate the transaction, just like we had on the thing, right? So we can either accept it, we can either counter it, or we can either reject it.
Right.
And then we'll go accordingly. So I think you just set up that standard. So presenting the offer to the listing agent. All right, there we go. Call the listing agent immediately to let them know the offer's coming in. Right?
Okay.
They're saying using e-edge, invite the listing agent to the buying loop. So that's the same thing what you do with the MRED. So if you utilize MRED and you write a contract in there, which we don't have to do that nowadays, we have dot loop, but some people even like to still write it in there and transfer. It lets the listing agent know though when you invite them in the loop. Okay, request a reply within the shortest amount of time your market will allow. So we went over that. We don't have a specified market time. However, you could put in there, we do want a response in 24 hours, 48 hours. We can, sure. Right, especially like, we really have another property that we like, that we wanna put an offer, if you guys don't wanna accept our offer or negotiate with us, right?
But wouldn't that make the sellers feel like they might not be that serious if you say that?
I think that actually makes it seem like you're very serious,
Yeah.
because you need a home. So you don't have like a week to wait, right? Like, we just,
Right, no, I get that, I'm sorry, Jimmy, what I meant was, like, if you say, you know, could you please let me know within 24 hours because we have another home that we would like to put an offer in? Do you think that would?
well, you don't always have to say, it. You gotta feel it out.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't
Sure.
think, you know, I think that makes it seem, it's serious though. I mean, for me, for my buyers, they got a courtesy,
And it's
Like-
creating a sense of urgency.
creating the sense of urgency. So for me, the way I see it, I think it shows it's serious, no?
It's serious because they wrote an offer. I
Right.
think, and they're saying they'd like a response in 24 hours.
Right.
And if they can't come to an agreement, then they will move on.
And you can just tell
That's
them,
helping them
I
to the
gotcha.
seller,
Okay.
so they don't tie up the seller.
it type the seller, I
Yeah.
agree. Same thing with the, you know, we'll present offers at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, or something like that. Right, so, again, so what happens when you doing these offers, really, please utilize your people, your productivity coach, and everybody that's around here to help you. Just feel free, I mean, people are here to help you, so do that. We actually talked about that actually the other day, right now, like the FISBO thing came up. And she had a question about that, so we had to find the paperwork. I mean, just being in the market center just helped, you just have so many people to help you out.
Right, and then I had another agent help me out with a checklist I had to send to one of the sellers, so
Right?
asking.
It's just nice, and there's always someone here.
Yeah.
There's always someone here, or just a phone call away that they answer. Alrighty, so representing the sellers, right? So we're on the other side, so how do you feel about the buyer part?
Good.
You feel good? So we went over the cover letter, that was a good aha for you, right? That's good.
And the larger earnest money too, I
Okay.
thought that was a good
Nice,
key to keep in mind.
little tricks of the trade,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, so representing the seller, when a buyer. Yeah, so when a buyer makes an offer on your client's property, there are 4 actions to take. We receive the offer, we gather info about the buyer, we present it to the client, and we respond. So it's very similar to what we were saying, now we're on the other hand. So again, when you're on both sides of the transaction, you know when you're a buyer, you're representing the buyer going to the listing agent or vice versa. Just have that common courtesy and have that win-win attitude. You know how it feels on the other side, right? So present your offer with a pre-approval and all those fun things. So, okay. So first, you obviously wanna thank the other side for their offer, get to know them, talk to them about it. How long has a buyer been looking? They have some really good points there. Have they been pre-approved? Yes, obviously you wanna include that letter. Do they have anything to sell? Like Roberta mentioned about being a contingent on sale or contingent on close, which are huge. If they are from out of town, why are they moving to this area? Why do they select this particular property? How do they come up with their offer price? And have they made offers on any other properties? If so, what happened on those? Now, I don't know about you, I have not been asked those questions by a listing agent.
Yeah.
Right? So if you do it in this type of thing, it could sound almost like an interrogation, if you will.
Yeah.
However, you don't have to do it like that. You can make it just like with the scripts, right? You don't just call and say, it's just doesn't happen. So these are all really good info. I mean, you can utilize this to your advantage. You just make it more conversational. So again, talk to them, Oh, really? So how long has the buyer been looking? Oh, this buyer's driving me crazy. I show them 40 houses. It's the 5th house they put an offer on. They keep backing out after inspection because they're not getting all the credit. I'm telling you, you be quiet and listen, they'll talk. So maybe this isn't always the best offer to put that emphasis on, right? When you're getting multiple offers. Not saying that you throw it out. However, this is info you can give to your seller, right? So remember, did you want to say something?
I was gonna ask you to come to the sector,
Oh, sorry. Am I
because
not?
they're recording you and nobody sees you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's okay, that's why I brought you this right here, you can put your sheets right here.
Oh, look at that.
Thanks you guys for making me here today.
Isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
So look at, I didn't even realize that we weren't in I thought it was like the whole span. That's okay. That's okay. Okay. I just like the table area, right? Hey. Hopefully we're talking loud enough. Okay, so, right, so you do it in a conversational type of piece, right, you see? And you ask those questions, you let them speak, but you say it in a way, all right, oh, do they have anything else to sell? Roberta, maybe they didn't write on it, maybe they have a bridge loan, right? It's not in the contract. However, if they speak, yeah, they do, but they got that loan, so, yeah. Right, that makes a difference though too. If they're from out of town, why are they moving to this area? So, just going all these, it's always good to just get info. Just the more info, the more you have as far as ammo. All right, Brady said, the more you know about the buyer, the better prepared you are, and the seller will be to respond. If necessary to encounter, the goal is to respond to the buyer with a high likelihood of knowing how the response will go. So again, we're gonna go to the checklist. Why is this page 25? Oh, we can go through the checklist. Checklist for reviewing the offer. Obvious, this sometimes could be obvious. Address, right? Price, earnest money, time for acceptance, pre-approval, loan approval, financing terms, closing date, home warranty, conveyances, repairs, special clauses or contingencies, HOL, seller's disclosure, mold disclosure, possession date. Right? Pretty straightforward, but you'd be surprised, it's not always on there, right? So what would you do?
Disclosure is no more.
Mold disclosure, yeah, you're right.
There is no more.
There is no more in the loan.
Radon.
We have the radon. That was a good point, Cindy, that is true. So there is no more mold disclosure. So what do you suggest as far as with your seller though? If there is mold and they know it, they do have to still disclose it.
Sure, absolutely.
However, there's not a separate disclosure that says mold. Right. Okay.
PIN number is important.
What'd you say?
The PIN number for the property.
Where do you find the PIN number?
No, I said that's important to put
On there.
Yeah.
Multiple pins.
Yeah.
How often does that happen? Just had some issues happen in Cook County, right, with the taxes being different. And a lot of times in Cook County, even just a typical single-family residential home has multiple pins. Different type of parameters where the property is, the alleyways. So always gotta be very careful. Again, it's very wise to have an attorney that knows where you're doing business. That helps out a lot. So presenting your offer to the client, all right? As far as the seller net sheet, we're a technology company, right? How many people do paper anymore with that? I really feel a very good, and it's a shameless plug for them. So Chicago Titles is really the title company that really sets the pricing, sets the bar around the whole area, even independent brokerages, they go by title. So Chicago Title has an app, and I suggest everyone download it. It's Chicago Agent One. It's got the little castle, so they're the title company with a little castle. And we have some preferred title agents that come in here, John Collins and John from Chicago Agent One. Right, so it's the app with the little castle. So just add it to, our other apps that we have, our Kelly app. And you can choose the agent. And on here, not only do you have the seller sheet info, you also have the calculators, and it's all free of charge. Yes. So it's an app, it's in the app store. Chicago Agent One. It's got like the castle. People really like the technology. They really like that. Am I right?
Oh, for Chicago.
Oh, my God. Look like an E. I know how to spell Chicago, right? Yes. All right,
What
so-
are the major benefits of this one?
So the benefits, so you can not only, we're talking about seller net sheet, right? So on how to compute things, how to compute with the title charges, and then you have your costs, right? And the sellers need to know, what's their net? What am I gonna bring home? How much is it gonna cost me? And it depends on the areas, right? Some areas you have transfer stamps, some areas you don't. Be friends with your title companies. They're free of charge. They'll give you sheets and help. However, when you have the app, you can get a lot of info from here. And then you have a representative that they'll give you the info if you need something particular to a certain area that you're not familiar with, right? Some areas, like I said, have transfer stamps where the seller has to pay or the buyer has to pay or both share. Call up the village if you're unsure. Yeah, and then there's a lot of other good stuff on there too, calculators, and that's all free of charge. They do have a premium where you can spend more money to get more things. However, you'll get a lot with just the basic model. And you'll see it has Illinois, Chicago Metro, and Will downstate. So I was mentioning to you before, our area over here, Chicagoland, if you will, it's very different, our charges than like downstate. So it's a substantial difference, which changes the seller's net, right? So you want to make sure that you're as knowledgeable. And then if you know what, if you don't know, say, you know what, I'm going to find that out. Don't ever give a number or throw a number that you can't back up. Just explain to them. You know, every city, every town, there's different transfer stamps and things like that. However, I want to verify for your particular city or town. We'll get that info. It's better to do that than to give the wrong info. Agreed? Agreed. All right. So how to present it to your seller. So right, first call your client, let them know there's an offer. And a lot of times in this market, there's multiple offers, right? That's where it's good to let them know that there's a ending time, like tomorrow at 5 or today at whatever. Like talk to your seller about it. Again, that's not your direction, it's coming from your seller. If possible, present it in person. It's always best to talk to the seller in person. They could get overwhelmed. You just send them. Can you imagine being a seller and you don't know these contracts and you're just throwing the contracts and they're like, what? Make a decision. That's not really fair. You're the professional, right? So whenever is possible, do it to them in person. Bring your laptop or tablet. Go review, respond online, or even break it down for them if you're unable to go in person. Keep the tone very positive and possible at all times. Never criticize the buyer, their agent, or their offer. Never. Again, remember, we all work together at different times. and you don't know which one it is. You might have 3 offers right there, and it's like, oh, that one's garbage, choose this one. However, that one pulls out, and then you're left with that one you just called garbage. Now, how are you gonna backtrack and go tell your seller to take that offer when you just called it garbage? Right? Don't do that. It's like, oh, you know, I could see this would be more advantageous. This one has a higher purchase price, however, this person's putting more money down on the loan. This. Call the lenders, talk to them. Again, ask questions and sit back and listen. They'll tell you. The lenders will tell you, oh, this buyer, you know, hasn't given all the docs, and I don't know, they're in and out of jobs, and make sure you listen. Explain the offer, days on the market, number of showings, review an updated CMA. So you look at what's going on in the market. Has the market changed? What's the absorption rate? Make yourself be a professional. We have all these tools that we can have at our disposal, right? You go in there, you know, learn about it more and more of the videos that are coming out with the command. Things are gonna be much easier even. It's right there. So use the tools. You look like the professional. You can go over there, you know, and even, you know, pull out the snap for the Kelly snap, or you can look on the MLS, but the Kelly snap, you look at here. When we started, there were 50 homes on the market. Now there's only 30 homes on the market. And it just shows it really easy. You can actually text it. Does everyone know, have the Kelly downloaded? If you haven't, yeah. And it's so easy. So you can just tell me, well, take a look at this. You tell me what you think. When we started out, there was 50 homes on the market. Now there's only 30. How come ours didn't sell yet? So this is a good opportunity. We gotta, you know, negotiate this. Maybe if the price isn't where it's at, where we want it, just take it. I always suggest to the sellers, whenever you get an offer, you know, really make that work as much as possible. Because typically, what do we say? The first offer is usually the best, usually the highest. Just kind of Murphy's Law. Yes. So accept the offer. If the offer is reasonable, they may accept the offer on the spot. Remind the seller that if they accept the offer, the property is sold at that point. So there's no more, you know, really fishing around. If there's another offer that does come in, it would be contingent on the prior contract being canceled. That's not to say that there can't be more showings. This is another thing that a lot of agents don't know. It actually states in the MLS at the bottom, continue to show, and there's a yes or a no. So when you list the property, whether you want to put yes or no, that's why actually I call a lot of properties that say contingent. I say, are you still willing to show it? Yeah, you can go see it. How many times do the offers fall through? A lot of times I get deals by doing that. So I think that's something most agents actually put in their search, and they get out of all the contingent and the pending. They're like, oh, it's already sold. Not really. It's not sold until closed. Remember that. If you do get any offers, you have to show your seller too. Even though it is technically sold, just because of that time, it could very well not be sold the next day or during that inspection period. What if that buyer is like, this is exactly what happens. So another offer comes in, right? And it's after even the 5 days. Another offer comes in though, it's $10,000 more. What? Oh my gosh, we should have taken this one. If only this and this, can we cancel? No, we can't. We're in a contract. However, that buyer just had a home inspection and said, oh, it looks like there's probable mold in the attic. We want $5,000. And they're putting that as a counter offer. So guess what? The seller goes, no, not only am I not going to give that, I actually canceled that contract and I accepted this. That's why you got to be very careful with what you ask. Just don't think that you're holding, you know. So that's, again, with that new contract. And then reject the offer. If the offer is unreasonable, or not even, if the offer, the seller doesn't even want it. I mean, they can't do that legally. However, it's your job to stress, you know, why not to? Okay, so we got that portion. I know I have all the papers over here now. Any questions on that? We're gonna have more scripts. So respond in the offer. Notify the buyer or agent of your seller's decision. If you're presenting a counter, prepare the documents, says in the edge, then present it in person if possible. Request a reply within 24 to 48 hours, which it's pretty customary, you know, for our market too. However, we don't have any specified time. The buyer accepts the counter, have the buyer agent obtain his or her client's signatures. Once both parties have signed the contract, retrieve it, the earnest money check and the option check if applicable from the buyer agent. The buyer agent may deliver the earnest money to the closing company or put in escrow. So we have to look on that, how it's put in their listing agreement right away. We do hold earnest money here. So earnest money would be held here. A lot of people think that the offer isn't an offer, you don't have a deal until earnest money, and that's not true. Once that contract is signed, that's the deal. Legally, you don't have to have earnest money for there to be a deal. However, just like we talked about, puts the skin in the game, okay?
Jane, please,
yeah.
I'm sorry, can I ask you a question? What did I just say? What is an option check? It says if option check, or the
If applicable, so some states, like in California, you know, like their escrow companies and things like that, they do things a little bit differently in other states, which we don't have to worry about.
So it's just something that's.
Yeah, it's just something different.
Okay.
Does that make sense? We do things a little differently
That's not
here.
something we do here in Illinois.
Yeah,
Okay, I got you.
would you all agree with that part? Okay. Okay, so here's the presenting a counteroffer to the buyer agent. Again, let's go through that and see how you feel about, some of them are that needy to really go back and forth with the partners. I mean, there's only so many things you can deny. I mean, all right, good morning, good afternoon. Okay, Cindy. Hi, good morning, Cindy. This is Jamie with Keller Realty, and thank you for your offer. We appreciate it. It was quite a bit lower than what the seller had hoped.
Yes, we felt that for the market, we gave a fair offer.
Okay, well, the sellers will come back with a reasonable counteroffer that should work. The seller is countering back $155,000. The rest of the terms in your offer are fine, except for closing. We want it at 30 days instead of 45. And there's something that will work for everybody. Your buyer is getting a home within the market, the seller is selling at a reasonable price, and we can all move forward to get this closed. Would you agree?
I will call my clients with your conference.
I feel like this, what do you think? This is a good one to maybe role play?
Absolutely.
You guys want to get together and choose? Because I think there's a little more things you might come up with. Go ahead, give them two. And then we'll have something to play with. Come on, Roberta. You have two.
Do you want to start?
You wanna?
Oh, go ahead. You like how that?
Go ahead.
We can do all three of us. So, we're on page 24.
And I'm Roberta. Lydia, nice to meet you. So we're doing the bottom portion, presenting the counter offer.
Hi guys, there's four of you.
So,
Five of you.
I'll just start. Good morning, Lydia. How are you? Good. Hey, listen, this is Roberta with Keller Realty. Thank you for your offer. We really appreciate it. However, it was a little bit lower than what your seller had hoped for. And then you're supposed to
I was
say,
gonna be like,
yeah. Not listening. So the sellers have come back with a reasonable counter offer that I feel that should work. The sellers are counter offering that for 150 rather than 140. The rest of the terms on your offer is fine, except we would like to maybe close in 30 days rather than 45. I think that this is something that would work for everybody. Your buyer is getting home within the market. My seller is selling at a reasonable price, and we can all move forward to get this closed. Would you agree? Okay, great. Sounds good. And you'll get back to me quickly?
Yes, as soon as I start.
Awesome.
let me do it on my own.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it is. I find that the more I read it, the more I get comfortable, and then I just try to put it in my own words so it doesn't sound like I'm reading a script. That's my biggest challenge with the script. I feel like I sound scripty. You know. Sure, and then you'll figure it out. Right.
Is that the only one?
I think so, yeah. So I think that, you know, they were just looking for like objections, you know, but I don't even know what kind of objection we could get, you know. Right, I mean, you can't make a decision tonight, you know. Right, right. Unless you were just to, you know, just call me back and say, hey, I spoke to my buyers.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but I mean, there's not even presented. Presenting a low offer to your seller. No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm on Harry's. Yeah. So I just, right now, there's just 3 of us. Yeah, so, but really, there's only 2 of us, because one of the girls really is just new here. She's like, so I don't even know. I don't even know why she's here. But, you know, there may be a situation that I'm just not, you know what I mean? I'm fairly new, like I just started in December, so, you know, this is all of you. With Keller Williams.
Period.
Oh, period. Okay. In November, awesome. I actually just got this for the second time last year. So I'm ready to
They really do.
September 17th. I'm sorry, 17th. My sister has so I was her binding showing agent for the last year. And I felt like it was because like this house did. It was right in the range. All I did was show. I'm great at showing homes.
So you're just open the key and she'll give you like
Exactly. Right. Well, so I was getting like a small salary, and then I would get a certain percentage off of every contract that, you know, if I showed the home and we got a contract, then I would get a certain percentage. So it works out really well financially, you know. I was getting a steady income. It might not have been a very big one, but at least it was money coming in.
All right, how's everyone?
You know, I was getting commission.
How's everyone doing? I feel like
And we sold 52 properties this year. So we were successful.
Sure.
Yeah. You know, I never went on any of the South events.
all right, guys, you can stay in your groups because pretty soon we're going to be, going to work the offer. We can actually keep in the groups and do that. So what type of objections do you guys find from the scripts where you're working on that, going back and forth? Do you find anything when you're doing that? Yeah. Anything different or anything that came up where you just both friendly co-broke agents to one another? Right? What's that do? I mean, sometimes they would be.
We came up with an objection, but the
Yeah.
buyer wanted, to leave the closing cost credit in. They didn't want to negotiate that.
The buyer wanted to keep and the listing agent suggested.
The listing agent suggested, take out the closing cost credit, but the buyer wanted to.
So what you can't do in that situation, say, well, our buyer really did need that closing cost credit, right? Obviously, if the buyer didn't need it, we wouldn't be asking for it. So what you can do, we can actually increase the purchase price and then for the difference, get the buyer credit. Now, I don't always advise to do that in a market where the appraisals are a little iffy. However, if you're talking about 205 versus 200, the buyer needs $5,000 credit, right? So we said, well, we're gonna put a purchase price at 205 and the buyer's gonna ask for 5,000. So your seller will net the same. How is that? If it's FHA, when you sign the appraisal, it'll be at the 205 and it's not appraised at that 205, then the deal is done. That's another reason why the sellers don't like FHA, because again, it protects the buyer. So when it comes down to that point, what if the property didn't get appraised at 205 and it's not FHA? So that's where you have to make sure, so if the buyer can either pay that difference out of their pocket or come up with it, or a lot of times though, the seller then renegotiates down because you're already that far down in the rabbit hole, if you will. So that's a great objection right there. That really happens. A lot of people don't understand that. And sometimes the sellers get a little like, if you don't have the money for a house, why are you buying a house? And we know as real estate brokers, right? I mean, it's a big hunk of money to save. So not only they have the closing costs, they have the down payment, and they know they have to fix up the home. And many people live paycheck to paycheck, even if they're buying a home that's well within their reason. Isn't that true? We see how it really goes. So we have to make sure that, you know, we work for our buyers. Some markets you'll see that they do not have closing cost credits at all in some cities. In others, it's totally commonplace, right? That was awesome. That was a really cool, very real life objection. Anything else from that? No? All right. Well, the next one, we're going to about working the offer. So break into groups of two. One person will be the agent, the other is the buyer, the seller, using the complete offer to purchase form that I gave you. Now, what I was doing was, because we came a little late, we didn't know how many people were here. It's virtually the 7.0. Do you have the 7.0 contract that we had given out with the attorneys? Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that we're gonna look at. Does everyone have that? If not, I can go get some more 7.0s. Yeah, 7.0. You don't have one? Okay, I'm gonna print out. So you know, I didn't want to do some. Okay, I was gonna print out like 3, 5 when, you know what I mean? We were like, what's going on? And then everyone's
Yeah, it's for square foot. That's how they live, that's how the rest of the storefronts. Yeah. What do you mean, like the agent? Yeah. Yeah, that was one for sale too. Sometimes they just like buy it. So like usually. I'm not sure what else they do. It's commercial. It's strictly commercial, but they still use that. So it's just. To be honest. Yeah. Yeah, I got mine 3 months ago, but I'm sure. Yeah. 3? No, 9. But thanks, you too. I think you can do. So the company needs to get a special. But I just think they usually just stick to one of the because I know you can do vice agent. Right.
How are you? Yeah. So how are we doing with our daily tech board?
We're rocking it.
Are we making our calls? Who's gonna have 2 in our database? By next Monday. You have 2. You have 6.
600? I'm working, that's what I've been working on, getting it from my phone into.
Good job, so it's maybe like, yeah, keep on doing it. Honestly, I was just telling everybody, I literally created the daily 10-4, like, I call mine the daily 10-3 now, into my own, into like my own systematic, it's all the basics, right? So just if you continue to do this, and continue just to focus on 10 contact connections a day, 10 handwritten notes a day, and finding people to add to your database every single day, that's all that you do, you're going to succeed, like, you're going to continue to grow. Good job. So you're doing like a free call with them?
Well, actually, one's already, I tried to hook them up with the lender before I even.
Yeah.
The other one's a nurse, so I tried to get a hold of her. But yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, I mean, she doesn't really want to like the year, but I want to.
Yeah.
Just need a couple, right? So need one?
I do want you.
Oh, there's like a girl people.
What's that? Yeah, so you're going to see the other contract as well for a while. I believe the effective date is like March.
They're letting you guys use the 6.1 still for March, however, I'll be honest, there's such limited changes. I just started using 7.0, just to get myself used to it.
Right. Cool.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, there is, I did give you the mostly.
I like that. That makes sense, because I think a lot of times those spare credits, closing cost credits, were always lost because most agents would never go look. And I hate to say it, I mean, there would be newer agents that didn't know where to look right away, because the lenders, they don't want you to write it on the first page. So, because that's how I used to write it on the first page even, and then I was like, oh, you know, that's even being slipped by, so. That has to happen. I believe that's what happened with the attorneys, actually, the other day, there was that, the attorney did it.
I think there is a luncheon there, isn't it, today? Is the luncheon today?
Wednesday.
Oh,
There's
Wednesday.
a luncheon there.
So yeah, on Wednesday, right after Ignite, they have a luncheon learn coming in to talk about this exception contract. So if you guys want to do that, yeah.
Another attorney?
I believe, well, I think it's a lender this time.
Oh, lenders,
I think
yeah.
so. I might be wrong.
I know it was. Yeah, so it's always good to get a different approach, because, you know, just like we were talking about, the lender has. I just printed out a couple, I don't know if she has one.
I feel like that they were
It's a little slow with the snow. Everything's slow with the snow, right guys?
She's really good at descripting.
All right. Yeah, so that's the 7.0. So we've been getting used to that, 7.0, you know, a little bit here and there, right? Did you have any particular questions on the contract of how, as far as when you presented that you're not sure how to present, or do you find it type of challenges? Yeah. You guys are, because they're kind of like a cruise, so it's like putting it together with the offers, so with the contract. However, there's really not that much difference, and I mean, but we're here to, you know, answer any specific questions when you do put the offers together, right? So take turns, like presenting the offer. in your group? Were you doing that? Oh, you were doing that. Did you come up with any kind of objections or anything that's, look at them calling the spot? She's like, yeah, we were. They were really working. So I was like, yeah, it's good. Right.
Yeah.
So when you're with your seller, do you actually present the offer in front of your seller? Yeah. No, they meet with them. Oh, wow. Yeah. That's what we they suggested. Oh, I agree with that. Yeah. Sometimes it's, do you want to come over here? She said I was listening. It's nice to get together, you know.
Okay, so I just. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Every time I look at that, like,
I actually changed my okay.
Here we go.
Which is one of the things.
So it'll tell you your fee for the day or something. My issue.
The offer was
So
fixed.
here's
So
my
I agree. All right, so then.
So I mean, all these other ones.
Which would show me.
So it depends, so if you feel like you're gonna be some
So you will pay. So the first one is.
I got like the outline of it, you know what I mean? Like I knew like. You can see that as well.
I mean, Jesus.
Which means that interest rate goes up, and they're gonna go potential. I don't know.
With online, with.
You don't get any more. You don't get any more.
And it is the first one is a share that says, who wants to? You know what? Here's the drop the check off. And you draw it out and say, okay, my client.
I think it's the one that's taking it.
If you
don't,
don't,
right?
we put down a page, you take $7% of $4,000 and then closing. This one is a different thing. That's a good, it's a check. It's good, good thing. And since-
All right, guys. Pull it together. Tell me what you got from this.
Ladies?
I know we just don't have that much time to do start a little bit later. But go ahead, tell the whole class about everything. Like, let's.
No, Cynthia was just doing great. She had, like a scenario where she had 4 or 5 different buyers. So she had a cash buyer, she had a conventional buyer, she had a VA buyer and an FHA buyer. So she was like, okay, well, this is the cash offer. They're putting $2,000 down in earnest money. And they're gonna close in 30 days. And then the next one was, this is a conventional buyer. They're putting $20,000 or 20% down. So, you know, that's a good chunk of change that they're putting down. And then, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Right, so, yeah, I know, it says to give quite a bit of money, time for this. However, you know, we are a little constrained.
She has one question.
Yeah, of course.
So, while doing this, and if I was a seller, my question would be, well, what is more attractive what would be more attractive to me being the seller? Somebody who's putting 20% down or this cash offer? Like, what do you say to your seller?
What is the purchase price though for the two?
We didn't
Is it
get,
the same price?
we didn't get to that part. So you wanna look at price and conditions.
It all matters. Now, if the cash buyer is going to offer $190 cash, close in 3 weeks, and then the financing is going to offer $215, 20% down, close in 4 weeks. I don't know about you, but I think that would be smart to take your chances for an extra week or whatnot, or you're talking to the lender to get that additional money. Now, if it's the same term, if they're both offering $200,000, right, then it's a little bit more, you know, dig deep to the closing date, the earnest money, right? And then also, another suggestion, the as is, right? So a lot of times I'll tell people, and again, you have to be very careful because we want to make sure our buyers feel comfortable with their purchase. However, if it's a multiple offer situation and it's like, regardless of this house, you really feel like you want the home, we're not gonna get a professional inspector anyways. You know, Uncle Harry is a general contractor, he knows his stuff, we want him to take a walk. Okay, so are you actually relinquishing your professional inspection, right? So if you're doing that and Uncle Harry or whatever, the general contractor, whatever he says, they're not going to do repair credits with that. So essentially you're doing an as-is deal. Now, if you're going to do that, you might be advantageous for you to actually put as-is because then they won't even look at that for the multiple offer situation. They'll say, well, they won't even deal with an inspection. Does that make sense too?
So that's more attractive to the seller.
That's more attractive to the seller. So you have to be careful though as the agent, because you don't want to sit there and say you're advising them by any means. However, if they are telling you, right, there's actually, you can have them sign an addendum or additional piece of paper that states, you know, we suggested a professional inspection, however, you didn't want to do it, because there are buyers out there that won't do it no matter what. Because Uncle Harry, the GC for 50 years, you know, the general contractor, he knows everything about everything. And they're not gonna pay someone $500 for that, right? You're going to have that. So then what you can do is say, well, if you're going to do that, you might as well make your offer that much more attractive by actually marking as is.
Right, because the seller's not gonna wanna offer any credits back if it's not a professional.
Right,
inspection.
they won't. They won't. So that's another thing that I use to get offers through. Again, no, you just cover yourself because it's not like you're telling them to do it. Because what if something happens 2 months later, they're in the attic putting their Christmas tree away and they see mold. Well, there's mold. Why didn't you tell me to get an inspector? Hey, I didn't tell you to get one or not to get one. because legally we can't. Because we tell them to get one, they spend $500 out of their pocket, the inspector finds nothing, they're gonna say, you told me to get one. Where's my $500, right? So really, we're there as a professional to give them the advice. This is what happens when you get one. It's very, it's a good investment if you do get one. However, you may not find anything, or this is what happens if you don't get one. See, again, you're there for the best interest of your client, but you're also, it's your business. So you want to make sure you run it right. Any other?
Jamie, remember, I think the attorney may have mentioned that if you do put the as-is, but if you do go through the inspection, right, and you end up finding something that you can still you can
Yes.
still
100%, right, within that 5-day period. So again, use your contract as what it's meant to be used for. Utilize it to its utmost, potential in your favor.
So as is doesn't necessarily mean that you can't ask for repairs.
No, as is means you're not going to ask for repairs, as far as you're not getting a professional inspection. Sometimes it's happened where something is as is, and then they found something, they're like, oh, well, the front door didn't open, it's locked, or we noticed this, there's some things that have happened, and then it's like, well, I thought you were buying it as is. Well, you know what? We are, but this just happened to happen.
sometimes the sellers.
And then sometimes they understand. So again, it's always, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, I've done file walkthroughs where the hot water tank was broken. I mean, weird stuff happens, guys. And you're going there for the fire walkthrough, you're on your way to closing, and then the whole basement's flooded because of the hot water tank broke. What happens? So I just had to make it all happy. And hey, this stuff happens. This is like owning a home. And we still closed it, got the credit from the seller. This is, it all works out. Put money in escrow, utilize your attorneys, utilize your team. So as much as you plan, that's an example, as much as you plan for everything to be, 100%, it doesn't happen always 100%. So we have to be willing to roll with the punches. And we have to always be the professional that acts like this stuff happens all the time. We'll get it together. Don't freak out. Just be like, oh, we'll figure it out. There's an answer. We'll figure it out. Even though you're not sure of the answer yet, just, you'll get it.
I always suggest that my clients get an inspection. That's part of my presentation, that they get an inspection. So you say that they don't necessarily have to.
If they don't, that's a choice. So that's why there's that as is. As agents though, we don't want to be in that position where we don't want to say, oh, you don't want to spend that money, it's not a good investment, or your Uncle Harry, the general contractor, will do just, you keep all that, you don't say it. My only thing is if you sit there and say, because there's always someone, right? Oh, I totally suggest a home inspection. I always say things though, a home inspection is really advantageous to see about your home. However, sometimes they find nothing. And you just have to be aware that you may spend $500 and you find nothing, but that's a good thing, right?
Okay.
Does that make
So
sense?
you're not saying, I strongly advise you to get one. You're just saying, you know what, a home inspection is advantageous. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I always leave it open-ended to the point where they can't sit there, because I've had it happen where people actually have gotten mad. They have a home inspection, they didn't find anything. Really? Isn't that a good thing?
We want to buy this house, right?
Right, so really, that's when your face, especially when you're on the phone, you're like, okay, and? Well, I thought they were gonna find something. Again, that's where they learn, like, oh, I'm gonna get my money back. Oh, I wouldn't have offered so much. This is where you find out, especially when you work with buyers that you don't really know that well. Right? Does that make sense? So you always want to put it out there. Again, it covers you, and it shows that you're a professional, and it shows that you've done other deals. Whether you've done them or your brokerage has done them, you can utilize our experiences and say, well, I know from experience, right? Does that make sense though? And it's always just coming from that contribution though, because you don't want them to feel like they wasted $500 that they find nothing. At the same time, you don't necessarily want to find something though, do you? Okay? Peace of mind.
You're spending $250,000 a house, a $500 investment for a home inspection.
However, that's why I said that though, because there's people in $500,000 home, I mean, and above, they are not going to get a home inspection. I have buyers that they are not, because Uncle Harry knows his stuff. Don't you know this?
Sure, IVF is on.
Right. So it's like, have at it. So then as the professional, you're like, well, if you're gonna, and you wanna get your deal through. So that's why I utilize even the as is. However, I always preface it and explain to them, this is what it is. Right? They know. All right, so we feel good about that? Get any more? Okay. All right, customer experience focus. So this is my, oh, before that, so Val pulled up the numbers. And as you see the numbers, all right, guys, there's some holes here and there, right? So this is the whole thing about doing the daily. You want to put your numbers on the daily. And I know some of you have the paper trackers too, so that's what she just wanted me to make sure that I mean, some people are really going to town. See that? And some of them they're blank. So this is just not to embarrass anyone or anything. It's just keeping you accountable, right? That's what it's all about. Keeping everyone accountable. And we know when we put the activities, we get the results we want. So yeah, that's just a reminder for that. And then Val will go over that more with you. So again, not looking to, you know if you've done the work or not, right? And that's what happens too. I mean, we know that when you do the work, it shows. That's why we have the tracking of all the numbers and all that good stuff. So this is customer experience. So this is the real big thing here at Keller. This is one thing that I loved when I came in here and I saw it on the wall. And I can attest that I have seen it through and through with Keller Williams, through how they deal with people, both the agents, both co-brokes, both vendors. And this is something that I'm really proud to be a part of. So every morning, actually, in our leadership stand-up meeting, we do this. Do you want to say
Sad story, right? Yesterday I was eating out with a friend and I was talking to one of the guys. He just came to sit down, one of the managers, and I gave him one of my KW cards, right? And I started talking about your training and he started talking about his sisters and getting it. So he actually brought up another waitress who wanted to know more about KW and the training because she just became a realtor.
Oh,
Just
there you
passed her
go.
exam. So it's like when you really believe, you know, in the company and stuff, it's just you get into conversations like that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And actually, I'm going to touch on that too. And, you know, I'm the growth chair committee, right? I'm on the committee for the growth. And that actually holds true because it just comes naturally and you're excited about it and you love it. And people will be coming and that helps your profit share. You're going to help him or her and help yourself. And that goes to the win-win. So that's really, it's just a really beautiful thing. So I said, if this is our idea of our cult or our drinking Kool-Aid, well, give me more. And that's what people, I mean, seriously,
That's
when
what
I was
they
like,
told me. You're drinking off the Kool-Aid, so it's like.
who said that? Me?
No, not you.
Oh,
Someone
somebody?
told me. It's like, oh, you just drink off the Kool-Aid.
Oh, yeah. Well, I even told you, like, when I joined and, I even had other managing brokers from other offices send me that big Kool-Aid guy in my Facebook Messenger. You know, the big one with the eyes, I don't even know, Kool-Aid Joe or Cool Joe or something. Oh, and I said, yes, damn right I did, you know. So proud to be here. And we'll talk a little bit about that for a second as far as, you know, I haven't been here that long for the people that know me, and I know you didn't know who I was. We didn't have like a formal introduction. However, I've been here since September. Yep, so not very long at all. And I'm teaching classes here, right? So I'm in the ALC, which is that's really cool, the Asian Leadership Council. And I can tell you being in those meetings and being a part of these agents here, that you see their billboards all over. It's really empowering and it's amazing. And I always say, like, you would know the guy who's selling 1,000 units next to the agent that didn't even close their first deal. We all sit in the same, what's that?
I'm sorry, you've only been here 4 months.
Yes.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and I'm the assistant team leader, as a lot of you know.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. And, you know, Rita is one of my first hires, right? That I've had the pleasure to meet. And like you said, I'm very passionate and I really see how it's changed lives. You know, when you're with people, like when you talk to Colleen Basinski and you see how it's really catapulted people, because it's not just a sales company, it's really a way of life. So I'm not trying to get to, you know, Dan Kenny, here he goes. So we're just talking about how actually it's a perfect time. He's a perfect example how the company has impacted people in a short amount of time. So they clapped for me for only being here for 4 months.
Oh.
And I said, look at how things change and change quickly. I mean, Dan Kenny's only been in the business for a few years, and he has a huge growing team. And that's what's awesome, when there's opportunities, and everyone believes in one another. So, let's say it together, guys. Win-win. Read it. Win-win.
Or
no deal. Integrity.
Do the right thing.
Customers.
Always come first.
Commitment.
In all things.
Communication.
Seek first to understand.
Creativity.
Ideas for results.
Teamwork.
Together, everyone achieves more.
Trust.
Start with honesty.
Success.
Results through people.
What's the class in there?
We are talking about making and receiving offers. Yep. And look, these are the troopers that made it here. We had a little bit later start, but we still had a pretty good turnout. So it's pretty exciting. So
Bodes well for your career. Show up on a day like today.
totally agree. Totally agree. I mean, like I said, there's exceptions, you know, not the people that didn't make it, because I know, you know, the kiddos. However, that kind of grit and that hustle, this is what catapults you from being, you know, crying that you're not selling any properties to being a top producer. Yep. So that was a little bit about me. Been in the business, been licensed for 17 years. I've been with other brokerages, and I can then clearly attest that the grass isn't always green on the other side. And I've told people that I really feel like I found my real estate people, and they really are behind me to grow. So, and the one beautiful thing about Keller Williams, it's not about politics. It's about, it's about production and performance. If you step up to the game, that's what people are like, how did you do that already? And apparently I stepped up, and I was showing it even before I even realized it. So when you have great leaders like Colleen, it's pretty powerful when people lead. So
Just the overall atmosphere here is. just
it's pretty cool.
amazing.
I know, right?
It's just amazing.
It
I've
is.
never worked for a company, the enormity, the size.
Yep.
Of this office.
Well, you know, all the awards that we received, I mean, it's not supposed to be like a powwow for that, but however, for the, you know, we were rated second out of all the companies, the happiest place to work, which is pretty cool, and that's really powerful. I see how they put their family first and things like that, like they're understanding things happen. However, when it's time to work, it's time to work, right? So it's like that, and then you can actually tell people proudly, like, we are the Triple Crown winner of real estate. We're the number one technology, you know, number one leadership, and things are just getting bigger and badder, like in a good way, with the rollout of all the new tech that I was just into that meeting the other day. So it's powerful, it's amazing. So we'll be talking about that soon enough. Just look at your calendar. I mean, just look at that. Just show people our calendar.
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm like, hello. I mean, I could just tell you that. I've been at so many different brokerages, and it's like, I never did a business planning like that. So Colleen has business planning. I highly suggest you take it. I think the closest anyone ever asked me was, how many units do you want to sell this year? I'm like, oh. Here, they ask you how many units, and they go, all right, let's figure it out, from 9 to 5. Like, Colleen teaches a class from 9 a.m. to 5. And it's like, literally, how are we gonna make the money? And you just lead so like with this plan, and you're like, I'm gonna do this. Because it's not just some number. I want to sell 50 homes. Yeah, how many sell? I'm not sure. How am I gonna do it? I don't know. And you have a plan, and it's like you feel like you know, because you know. So it's pretty cool. All right, putting it all together, right? Which I know we're wrapping up soon, and preparing for your next class. So let's face it, you guys know what you have to do, because I want to take the rest of the time to make sure we go through the ahas. You know what you have to do. We know what we have to do. Do the 10-4, do the daily, you know the activities. So if you don't do it, you're just lying yourself, right? So that's just how I look at it. I'm pretty blunt when it comes to that. All right, so what are the 3 options in which a seller can respond to an offer?
Reject, counter.
Accept, counter, and reject, right?
Right.
All right. What's a seller's disclosure statement?
Letting the buyers know if there's been any latent defects.
That they're aware of?
That they're aware of, right?
Right. Right, do you agree with that? We've said a good standard of practice, obviously, we would love to have it beforehand. However, don't let that tie you up to not presenting offers, because you can very easily click check that in your contract that you did not receive, right? All right, what's the seller net sheet
The bottom line, what you're gonna get it close.
after all their fees? And what's a good way to utilize it? When you learn something, the other tool?
Each one.
It's a nice little tool. And then, you'll have the agents, you can call them directly and they'll help you out if you need additional. You look like a professional though, when you have it and you're able to show them that. And, if you don't know the answer, just say, I'll get it for you. Don't guess at numbers. Oh, I think it only costs $1,000 to close. Your last deal only took $2,000 for a title. However, it goes based on purchase price. So you may have closed a $150,000 home last week and this is a $500,000 home. Charges are gonna be different. Okay, so just be very careful. If you don't know, it's okay. Just say, I'll get that in with you. What's earnest money?
Good faith payment, down payment.
Do you need that in order to have a contract?
No.
Legally?
No.
All right, make sure you know about that. Okay, including the Mets and all that stuff. All right, AHAs. Any kind of cool AHA we have? That's different. I know a lot of this is pretty standard. If you've been in real estate, you've been receiving offers, right? However, it's always good to mastermind with other people to get different ideas. I think we got a couple of them, like we talked about everyone's young. What's that?
The cover letter, I never did a
Cover letter.
but I will from now on.
It'll set you apart.
Depending on if the buyer wants it.
And they should. Remember, there's always a way, we ask for the permission, however, there's a way to do it to make sure that you get the answer that you want every time, right? So you say, do you want this home, right? Yes. So I think it's advantageous, especially in the situation. Does a bank, or if you're buying an REO, do they care what your cover letter is? No. They care about their bottom line, the price. However, when you're working with residential, and like I said, they got the tire swing in the back, or your buyers want that playground, you're like, our poor kids would really love that. You could leave that for us, and this and this and this, and it really, you pull up the heartstrings, and it makes a huge difference.
So you, Jamie, being an agent who has presented many offers, do you see many agents that do that?
No.
You don't?
No.
Okay, so if I was presenting an offer with a Century 21 Remax and a Coldwell Banker agent, and mine had a cover letter, what you're saying is mine is just gonna stand out more.
100%. 100%. And that's what you want to stand out in a good way.
Absolutely.
So sometimes even the seller, and I've seen this happen, they've taken that offer even though it's not even as much money, just because, well, like I told you, logic makes you think, emotion makes you act. They're gonna feel connected. The other one's a single guy that has no kids. So like, right? And it works. Especially when you know you have the buyer that's not coming up.
Listed a building, and the building, the seller was living next door. Her mom had passed that on the building, and so she didn't want investors in the building. And so we got many offers from investors, and one from a little old couple.
Yes.
Had grandchildren and children, and they wanted to occupy the building.
Yes.
And even though she got a higher offer from the investors, she chose that $10,000 less from the couple.
She was doing the right thing because it was the right thing to do in her eyes. Because money's not always the end all, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, as far as like behaviors, like how do we do these ahas and changing our behavior? So we're gonna do cover letters from now on, right? We're gonna look at the contract differently as far as there's more to play with to make your offer stand out. You can increase that earnest money, reduce the closing, don't do contingent on sales, see if you can get a different type of loan to be able to bridge those loans. There was something that I didn't really mention. It's not always utilized, but it's an escalation clause. So that's kind of, that's getting a little bit, out there. It's getting utilized more and more. And it's something essentially when you're in a multiple offer situation that no matter what the highest offer is, you're going to sit there and say you always want to bump it up $1,000 over. There's two different ways. You can bump it up $1,000 until the end of all, or put a cap on it. I'll bump it up 1,000 until X amount of dollars. Now we can practice with that later. Always ask. It's not always, it's not utilized much here. So there's two things that can happen to you as far as backfire. Someone may right off the bat not understand it and not want to touch your contract because they don't understand it. They're going to walk away from it. They might get intimidated, even the listing agent. or the seller might not understand it, the listing agent may not know how to explain it. However, you're going to see it being utilized more and more. They use it a lot in other states. Okay, now there is, if you do utilize it, you do have the right to see the first page of the other offer, the last highest, which a lot of people don't realize that. Yes,
Once your offer is accepted. you can see it for proof.
exactly, for the proof.
For the proof, yeah.
Right, because they could be just throwing out whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's just something to always remember in your back pocket of the tool. Again, utilize your team here. And when I say team, that's why it always says, you know, I'm assistant team leader, Colleen's team leader, like, we're all a big team, right? Without, not your team, like Harry's on this team. So just call us, come on in and everything like that. So I think that's another good aha, to be able to use a tool. What else could be, say aha, does everyone know the same thing about that?
I'm saying, the highest and best to offer $1,000 more over.
So it's called an escalation clause.
Over the list price or what they?
Over the highest offer presented. So when you're in a multiple offer situation, say one person's offering 150, one person offered 152, one person offers 149, and you have an escalation clause of $1,000 above the highest. So the highest is 152, so you're the winner at 153.
So but how would you know?
That, well, we are professionals. See, that's what we have to, we are professionals and we're licensed. That listing agent is bound by being a realtor to, or not even a realtor if they're not on the board. However, they are still licensed as an agent broker to do the right thing. They have to abide by that. And that's why at the end, if you do have that, you are allowed to see that front copy. Obviously the name is gonna be blacked out or whatnot typically, but they will show you what that amount was. Again, it's not utilized all the time here, but I just could not let you know about that.
So you would need the escalation clause for that?
Yeah, it's another, it's not in our contract.
I was just gonna, it's like
It's an addendum.
It's an addendum.
It's an
one
addendum.
piece of paper.
Right, it is. And, you know, back in the day, we didn't have these long contracts. We used to have a 2-page, 4-page contract, and everything we would fish out would be extra addendums. So if we wanted an as-is rider, I remember it was rider number 7, we go to the file. I mean, I still remember, and it's like,
7 and 8.
exactly, so you remember all those type of numbers and whatever, yeah, 7, 8, there was always like this certain number. So we would fish out for those specifically. However, we have the great contracts now, that's why they're so long, because there's all these addendums built in, that's why you don't always need to utilize them. However, this one, people don't always utilize, but they are using it in other states. And it's happening here more and more. And the top agents, they're using it to get your deal.
So you want that one in and got it for 153, could have said, I'll go 1,000 with the highest, but I won't do more than 155.
Exactly, it's almost like an eBay bidding.
Yeah.
Right. However, that could backfire on you too.
Someone else might offer 156.
Exactly.
Right.
So I personally, like, how badly do you want it?
Exactly.
Again, remember, with that being said, if something does happen within 5 days, remember, you can't, you know. So, you know, if something happens crazy, and if it goes to 165, it'll never be appraised more than 155, and you don't have that difference of money, that could happen too. So, however, it's something good to use. I mean, I know that's like a lot. It's just, you're gonna see that more and more. So don't be afraid of it. If that happens on your listing, embrace it. It's good. They're utilizing the contracts. Any other ahas or anything cool?
My aha is just that being a new agent here, you know, the team, when I go out, I still feel professional because the team I have behind me.
Yeah.
So the team and the tools, like Ignite and Bold and all of that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a good feeling.
It's a good feeling. And you can always, you know, like, if you are making calls, you're making cold calls, and you know the company, we have our private Facebook group where we do our rahas, but you don't see that plastered everywhere. They're a very humble company. I mean, we have all the results that came out. We're top. We beat all the companies. We're the leaders of Orland Park, Mokina, Homer Glen, Tinley Park. You know, you saw all that. They don't gloat. They don't have to. You know, they come from being humble. However, we know it, right? So you can utilize that too when you're making your calls. You may not have even sold anything. It's like our brokerage, we sold 50 Orland Park listings, and then you still are the expert because essentially you do have the experts behind you, right? So that's awesome. Crazy, but no, it's good times. Fun.
Amy.
Welcome, love it. And, make sure you